And we're live.
Hey, it's Bren.
What's up,
Your
everybody? It's Seafowls to Carney.
Hey, it's Miss Chronic Chronicles, RachelRawTruth. You are listening to the Mary and Joe Show. So, Mary, can it be blunt with thyself?
whoa, whoa, whoa. That is a very bold statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say that this is probably one of the biggest honors, privileges to be able to interview my super good, who has become friend, um, Rachel Raw Truth, Miss Chronic Chronicles, Mary Can I Be Blunt, Mary, so many different uh, accounts, but
Yes.
genuinely
No
still the
troll.
same person. Many aliases, but at the end of the day, she's the same person. So this is our opportunity to get to know her in the way that she wants to tell the story and has given all of us the opportunity to tell ours. Um, there's been a lot of conflicting things in the universe per se. Uh, I
Yes.
know that whenever I got an interview, it was really hard to tell my side of the story, even though interview you had the lineup. But to be blunt with yourself on your own channel, reflecting, deflecting, whatever the case may be, I must say, ma'am, that you're very brave.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate both of you being here. We had not announced that C Files was going to be a part of this, but I feel honored to have his brain added to this mix. It is a little bit of a learning curve for me as normally the host of my podcast to dive in such detail that I actually just naturally can pull out of a lot of you guys, which really I want to say thank you to everybody who's been on my podcast so far. I mean, between the two of you, along with all the other guests, we could just keep going on and on. And the guests that are coming the rest of the month, which I will just throw it on the screen because why not? We have the lineup ready for the rest of this month and some of March, but that doesn't mean that this story didn't need to come probably way before all the rest of the lineup so that a lot of you guys understand when we are talking about other conversations how they do really they touch me in my soul and like I don't know how else to say it, so it's going to be hard for me to like I will mute many times but you guys take the lane take the ride because it's
Yeah.
just more so I say things and like I've had friendships where they didn't know anything about my childhood and thought I just had a perfect ride the whole time. And if you look at pictures, which I will share, there will be lots of pictures in the future that I will probably, this could very well be a two-parter or three-parter. Who knows? Who fucking
I
knows?
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely I'm feeling that, but the thing is that you said
Hmm.
perfect. There's no such thing as perfect.
Right.
If you put perfection in the mix, that's just a whole nother word salad that just doesn't
Right.
jive.
I've never strived for that. Let me just let the listeners know.
It's not
Perfect was not
achievable.
something I wanted ever. I like unique. Unique is great. But
Yeah.
and strive, I love that
Yeah.
word too. So I don't know.
So
Like, go ahead. So sorry.
no, 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 no.
Uh oh. Uh oh. I think her sound just busted out.
Oh,
Boom. It went.
Bryn, I think you may have cut out, but
Yeah.
hi
Unplug,
everybody. You never
replug.
know. You never know where the Carney's gonna pop up at.
Straight
I
up.
seem to weasel my way into a lot of things, but
No weaseling.
uh, it is an honor to be here interviewing Miss Chronic Chronicles. I know I had not only a great time, but I ended up reflecting a lot after I did my interview with her. And I think that this platform, this channel, is a very helpful tool for not only the people listening, but for the people doing the interviews as well to kind of get a new perspective on things because when it's your life and your chaos, it seems like it's the normal. But when you
Yes.
have other people looking at it from an outside perspective, you can kind of stop and be like, oh, yeah, I guess that is completely insane. And I never thought about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it will also be good for you to have your own interview on your channel for kind of all the
Yep.
same reasons.
I couldn't agree more. Actually, Brendan's the one who even suggested it. I didn't even think about it, never came in my mind. It's kind of like I've said it over and over and over. Like the things I'll share today seem in some people's eyes maybe like it was on the outside, it looked perfect. Like I say, perfect is that word that my family liked a lot. Me, I just, like you said, like it's so hard to understand that in our own little ways. Like you, even when I was interviewing you, like just the fact that your family has been on your land for so long, that's amazing to me. I wish I could have experienced that shit because I barely, well, we'll get into it, but I barely have things because I grew up in a place that hurricanes kept taking things away. Um, but yeah, there was a period of time right before Hurricane Katrina came that even I had a family member who had shown me a 1940s prohibition flapper's dress and the beads were falling off of it. So like I'm saying I've touched my heirlooms from my family, but it's a complicated story. So I'm gonna let Brendan take the mic and I'm gonna let my dog out. I'll be right back. Uh-oh. Can we hear you?
Good, Bryn?
Technical difficulties. It's okay, guys.
Apparently.
We will get there. We will get there. Do you, I mean, I want to have her ask the right questions. I don't want to force feed it, but I mean, I don't know. We want her mic to work, so we're going to take our time. um, so I've had this channel, I'll say, for I think going on 13 years now. YouTube, it's pretty incredible. And I started documenting in 2012 just to like have perspective of my life. And everything that happened before that, I've been very selective if I were to put it on the internet, straight up, because for a long time I didn't know how my traumas really could help others, which I thought my health could really help people and my perspective as a mom could help people. But until I started doing these interviews with you lovely people and the rest of the listeners that have been on my show, um, yeah, I didn't realize how like fucking important it was to really put it out here. So I don't know what's going on with your mic, Brennan. Can you hear me? Say something.
Blink
Some,
twice if you can hear me.
yeah, something is the word. Oh, all right.
Okay, well,
Right. And let me just ask you, Seafowls, how old are you again?
28, going on
28.
29 in a couple months.
Okay. Then you understand the self-reflection at that age. I became a mom at that age. So for me, my life, like we're going to try to compartmentalize to the listeners with the help of you guys, between basically before I was born to when I became a mom. So we're going like 29 to 30 years we're going to talk about. So hopefully this interview, we don't have too many technical issues, but we're doing the best we can to bring it to you listeners. I encourage you guys to send me an email if you have questions at the end of the interview that you might want to ask privately. I guess that's the best way to put it. All the links to my fabulous two guest hosts will be underneath the description. And honestly, like, I don't know. I feel like the main thing is I encourage you guys to go research the shit I talk about because if you don't believe me, go look it up. It's all up on that internet. Um,
Yeah, for real. And, like Bryn was saying before her phone took a shit, I don't know what's going on, but it really is an honor and a big privilege to be interviewing you for a change because I know you're usually in the driver's seat, and now you're
facts.
handing that over to us and
Yes.
allowing us to pick your brain and
Yep.
maybe bring out some shit you haven't even thought about.
Facts. And I want to tell people there is a particular video that I talked about my fucked up traumas in more detail than I probably even, I mean, I will talk about them here. There will be some things here, but I don't know how long that interview is. I think it might be an hour, but I will put in the description in a big, bold explosion sign that you see on the background here. So you guys know that's the video to listen to if you just want to hear the meat. But this is the meat and the potatoes that they will be helping me kind of put to the surface. This sucks. Her internet's so mean today. Could be me. I'm
Yeah,
just gonna
you
go with
don't
that.
know what's going on with that.
Right.
That's it was working fine
It
pretty much
was.
before we hit fucking record.
Damn sabotage to the interview. Sabotage. With thyself, as we said. No, and like, I don't know, which ask me a question, sir. I feel all silly. Ask me the question.
Okay, I guess if we're getting into this, I guess let's start at the beginning. Where were you born? What was kind of like your situation growing up? Kind of
Okay.
your upbringing, your environment, you know?
Okay. All right. Well, I was born in 1985, in October of 1985. Um, I was not supposed to exist because my mother was not able to have children, supposedly. And they had my father and mother, let me just throw a picture up on the fucking screen. My father and mother met at church. He decided when he saw her dancing at a church event that he was going to marry that woman. He just decided, she's mine. And so that's how he described it. Um, this is their wedding photo. I don't have a lot of positive about my father, but we'll get back into that later. What I grew up around was a very holy atmosphere, non-denominational Christian. My mother was brought up in a Catholic background. My father was brought up in a uh, similar to Forging's experience with that, where only like Christmas and other experiences for the
Right.
looks, they'd go to
Okay.
church. Okay. And they were all about going to mass and whatnot. And it was a big ass deal if someone died. So that was a real thing on my father's side, but my mother's side was all about converting all the Catholics into Christians. And she was the start of that. So it was like, she was a flower child. She was like at 16. Um, my aunt pointed out where her cannabis was in the cookie jar in the kitchen. That's how brazen my mom was. She'd stick in the cookie jar in the kitchen on the middle of the table because grandma did not have a lot of cookies in that cookie jar, but she got kicked out of the house at 16 and she took her mattress with her and her cookie jar and got the fuck out the house and became very independent early. So she was kind of always like a pusher. My father was beating people up and was part of like motorcycle gangs early and got kicked out of every single prominent school you could imagine. So he's a bad boy from the beginning. And so he only got into the church life because there's good women there. That's literally the words he told me. So,
Right.
um,
Real quick, I don't mean to
yes,
interrupt, but I think
please.
Bryn is in the
Oh, good.
background.
She came back. Sorry, I didn't see it. Thank you.
This won't
Welcome
happen
back.
again. The mic's good now.
It's beautiful.
There we go.
Did you so I probably I don't know how help me summarize that, C-Fouls.
No,
Jeez.
no, we're good.
Okay.
We're good. So I can tell we're going back in time.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I had asked her pretty much, you know, childhood, what her growing up life was like, and I was gonna ask, so clearly it was a very religious
Oh yeah.
oriented type
You
experience.
pray at night. You
Do you
pray at the
think
dinner
that
table.
you right?
Yes.
Do you think that kind of pushed you away from religion a little bit, or was it
No.
just sort of like
No,
this is what we
actually
do type
religion
thing?
was pushed away because my mom got sick with cancer and I started to kind of resent that shit. So
Okay, right.
I stopped going to church by the time I was 15. I was forced to go to church until I was 15. Do you understand? I was like not getting in the car. And I was like, you guys can go. I'm staying here. I'm staying here. Like I was not. So I became a little bit arrogant because I had already worked jobs and things. I know we're going to bounce around, but I think religion, because I saw at an early age I wasn't allowed to ask questions. I can specifically remember being like, I don't know, 5 years old and being like, so God and Jesus are not the same person.
No.
And I asked, well, who is Joseph and all the other names in the Bible? And my mom got very upset with me and was like, you do not ask questions. You just obey. You are a sheep to God.
Right.
So I, yeah.
See, and that's what, like at a very young age, I was getting that same kind of spiel where it's like, this is what it is because God said so. And I was the
Yep.
kid to be like, I don't give a fuck what God says. I want some
Right.
answers to my questions.
Right. And I remember, okay, hold on. I got to open the door. I'll be right back. This is a very prominent moment. Hold on a second.
Pup always.
The Nova is like the
Yeah,
mascot of the
Nova.
show.
I
I
was
swear
about
to
to
God.
say.
I'm going to put a little dog that's ruff, ruff in the
Before
background. It's horrible.
before you continue, I can elaborate to this point. Back where we're from, children are seen. They're not heard. You
Mhm.
don't they don't they're there. You interact, but they don't.
This is a hardcore Italian family I have. This is my mom's side. But this is my father's side. This will show you physically how different it is.
Okay, so fraternal.
Hold on. Hold on, not that one. Yeah, mother's side. This is my mother and father. My mom's in the middle, Mickey Mouse. They were holy rollers at that point, and she had Daisy Dukes on. I'm like, woman, come on.
What year do you think that was?
It was like 80,
1970? Oh,
19,
80?
yeah, maybe 5 years before I was born. But they were married for 11 years before I ever came around.
Right?
So okay, I really got to go into the meat. So first off, your question was religion. That question, that's a big ass. I've never even brought this up anywhere. So thank you, Fowles. Here it comes. This is a two-parter. And please keep your question, Brennan, so I don't mess up. But my mom's best friend's husband was hit by a Mack truck after he got cancer and died. Okay. And he was sick for a long time. I went to the hospital many years, like up until I was 6 years old, I remember. And I remember being personally offended by God, like personally, like a little girl praying, like, how could you take him away? And da 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 da. Like I was mad. I would have fights with God, like as a kid. Okay. I didn't pray normal. I talk at him. So, and I remember asking my mom, so wait, he had cancer? So he was going to die anyway? And then the truck hit him and then he died? Because, I mean, they're explaining this to me as a child. And I thought, where's God in this? Where's Jesus in this? So I already was questioning all the bullshit then. And when I went to church, see, you guys can either believe it or not. I think it's a real thing. I do think people do speak in tongues and the Holy Ghost takes over. Yes, I think that, even not being practicing a religion anymore. But I was speaking tongues from the age of 5, like openly
Where
praying,
do,
putting hands on people and feeling. So I either was imitating it and was using my own spiritual self as a tool for others, but I felt like I was a good worshiping child until I was about 21 years old. So that says a lot.
so do you feel like your body is a host for the whatever spirit, or you're just
I think that I believe bigger, and this is going to be such a deep ass fucking podcast.
well, this is
I
a very
think
big
even deeper.
question.
Well, I was about 8 years old. I got hit in the head and had a concussion and walked down the tunnel. Totally, totally almost died. And I remember that experience before I'd ever even heard that was a thing. So I believe that yes, we're balls of energy, and I believe that the experiences we have, if God or a higher being exist, he's in control of the good and the evil. I think demons exist for a fact. I think all the things that have to work together to give you an experience in life, even if it's a life lesson that maybe your ancestors or parents, direct parents, right, had to go through, that I think there's a higher strength to things in the way that things, like in infinity work. Okay. So
Oh, okay.
I believe similarly to when I believed in religion. I believe that you, Brennan, you CFOWs are my prophets in my life. Fuck fucking Joe and everybody else. I believe in the Bible taught me to look at life in a different way. I never took it the way, like my mother had Bible studies from the age of like 1 till I was 6, like hosted it. And she worked for the church Victory Assembly from the
Mm-hmm.
beginning they ever existed. She was the accountant. And so she used to put like, she would believe in I guess a manifestation before it was actually said. She'd write letters and put it underneath the concrete before they poured it to like hope that it would bring good on. So I was around a different kind of Christianity of spirituality. It wasn't so black and white. It was like, we'll dabble in astrology, but never
Well,
talk about
do
it.
you feel like the religion changed with the leader per se to fit a narrative?
Are you talking about Victory? Because I know everything about it, and I would love to
No,
talk
no, no,
about
no.
that.
I mean,
Oh,
just in general, from your parents,
mm-hmm.
you know, said was
My
they were holy
father was a
rollers.
faker.
Okay,
My
all right.
father was the kind of man, and I'm sure you know this. I'm going to say this, Brennan, but my father was the kind of man who couldn't hold a normal job, so he would have a lawn mowing service or mechanic job. And then what he would do is he would bring homeless men off the street to our house from the earliest ages I remember, in which, you know, that's like a good deed Christian, bringing the man in, take a bath, let me feed you. Now let's go hook up on drugs.
Okay,
That's exactly how he was.
so the false.
He had an accident with a motorcycle that he was completely in a cast from the head to the toes. I don't know
That
how the man didn't die, but there's pictures somewhere I have somewhere. But he had a cast, full body, that he had a motorcycle accident, and he became addicted to methadone, or no, to painkillers, just painkillers in general. And then they put him on methadone by the time I was like 5,
okay.
4 or 5. That point is when somehow there was hypodermic needles in my refrigerator at a young age.
Ah,
Like,
Mm.
I
okay.
only remember this very clearly. Like, it's right above the cream cheese. You understand? That's my
Yeah, I
memory.
Oh
do. I
God.
do.
This is
Yeah,
not
No,
funny,
that's
but
I
no,
know,
that's I
but it's
the
facts. Like,
visual. I'm a very
I
visual
told you, Steve
person.
Fowl.
I'm a
Shit's
very
weird. And then
visual
my father
person.
wasn't always right in the head. So you guys can believe this or not. It's just facts. Let me give you a visual of the house that I'm going to talk about. Because from the early ages, this house, okay, I'm going to say things you guys are not going to understand.
So everybody close your eyes and visualize
A little
the
girl
things.
with this beautiful little house. My father was married 4 times. My mom was the second wife. The first wife, just for context, let's say her name starts with a V.
Okay.
She went missing after being married to my father on her 17th birthday. She was married when she was 16. She was emancipated. She came from a lot of money, this previous wife, before my mom. She disappeared within a year of their marriage, has never been found, ever. Okay. My father was like 19 when they got married. So he was a little bit older, maybe even 18. I don't know. He was young. He was a teen when he married this girl. And it was like, I don't know how they met, maybe a bar, who knows? The story is so weird, but she was never found. And this house was hers. And she inherited this property. And my father got to keep it after she just disappeared.
So is this
And
what state is this in?
Louisiana, this
Okay,
is the
this is I was
Bissonnais.
about to say this looks
Yeah.
like
This is in the heart of 150,000 and higher houses. Now they're like
uh-huh.
400,000, but this is back
Right.
in the 80s. Like, so
HOA type thing.
so it was, and so this house has got a lot of history. The reason it has to be seen is so you understand what I'm saying, guys.
I
You see the front
feel
windows? Look,
yes.
I'll tell you how far it goes back. Let me go back to this. This is when he first was with my mom, and they weren't, I think they were just newly married. That's her in front of the house. And
Did you
also,
ever live in this house?
yes, I
Do you
did. I
remember this
remember
house?
it
Okay.
very much.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
the inside of the house is also in this picture. Let me show this. Hold on. Oh wait, that's not it. Hold on. Where did it go, man? Did it not fit? It's
it's
possible.
okay. Take your
Let's stick
time.
with that. So if you can just see how close the window is, the glass, the window, the door. I have a
Mm-hmm.
regular memory of my father when the divorce was set, which we're bouncing the fuck around. I'm sorry. I don't know
It's
how to do
okay. Well,
this.
let's do this. So the
Okay.
inside of the house, if
I have
this
a
is
picture of
in,
that.
no, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if you can't find it. It's
Okay.
okay. So
That's the inside.
most of the
See the screen
houses,
door and the glass.
yeah, lots of screen doors down there, lots of glass, very humid.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the houses, if they're one story, they have the same layout. Uh, it's very, when you have a lot of the garages are almost like a one car,
Yep. This
pushing
was a
on.
2 car.
uh,
No, this was a 1 car. I remember it could fit a one.
Right. So they normally have one car garages with just enough room to squeak by to like maybe put a bike in there or something. I mean,
Facts.
if a garage on a house in New Orleans was a luxury.
Yeah.
Um, that's just maybe just a little bit of insight to get.
Right.
I feel like this is not anything to do with your happy place at all.
No, but we have to touch on this to really
Right.
set up the mood. So I had a childhood. I will definitely be showing pictures in their next part of this, or however I end up able to describe it in the future. But this house was where everything started. I was brought home to this house. My mother was a photographer and got my father into it. So I have books and books and books of raw, you know, originals and stuff like that. Even
Ah,
yeah, I have everything. And my mom started it was like a 4 bedroom house, I want to say. And so she was into photography early before she even met my father. My mom was a hippie. Like she did shrooms, she did acid, she did coke, she did it all. This is her with some tarot cards in her hand. This is in a if you can kind of see the background, that window is an arched window in the French Quarter off of Magazine Street. She's straight true New Orleans hippie. She refused to wear a bra, refused to shave her armpits. She there was a massacre that happened in UNO where she was going to college, and she was smoking a joint out on the steps in the back, and saved her life because everybody was killed in that library, and she got out just because she's smoking a joint. So funny, but facts. She refused to wear shoes most places, so that was mirrored for me a lot, like that kind of earth, like feel the earth, let's go get our feet on the ground kind of shit was very
so
much
she
mirrored
was
for me.
very, very grounded and had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of air.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
She was a Capricorn.
okay.
And like I said, she's one child of five. She's the oldest, and she had a twin brother the sister had died at birth at SIDS, and that was a weird thing. And my mom was like the most intelligent and the most wild. Like nobody could strive to be her. So sorry, I sound a little bit like her. I know, but that's a fact. Like nobody could really like figure. No, she wouldn't tell you what she was doing. You just find out. Like my mom was. We're gonna go into it,
So
but
she did the whole FAFO before it was even a thing.
yeah, yeah,
Sounds like
yeah.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
actually, that house when the divorce was final, she put everything. Okay, let me just fucking go back to that. So that house is so much. Okay, so first off, my father had a methadone issue by the point, like, I guess not methadone. He got on methadone. Morphine. Morphine was what he was on. He loved
Right. He had
okay
I'm assuming an opiate issue because of
issue.
that
And he was an
accident. And
alcoholic
then,
from as long as we want to remember. Now, he was
okay.
afraid of
Yeah.
cannabis, and he was like a fall asleep cannabis, you know? And, but he was all about acid. And my mom was trying not to do that kind of stuff anymore because she was Miss Holy Roller, like, hosting the shit. So they put
That's
that out
okay.
within like a few years they were together. But I'll say it like my mom explained it. Like I'll put it in the terms she said. I loved your father, but he scared me. He scared me so much I couldn't leave. I couldn't stay. I couldn't exist. I couldn't have a thought. And you were all I cared about. So when I got to explain it, and this is trigger warning for people, but I was abused as far as I can remember from the ages of like 4, maybe earlier to at least 6. I remember it. And I had to tell, I don't know how to explain this, Brendan. I'm having trouble. I had to tell.
Okay, so whenever you are talking about your dad having issues and your mom was this free spirit and she just cared about you so much, but I'm sure all of the
She
things
was
that were
working too
distracting.
much and never
Correct.
saw me. She was
Right.
a workaholic, so I would be between this grandmother, who I very much love but have mixed. Well, we will get into it why.
Okay, so
This is
that's your mother's
that's my
mom?
father's mother.
Okay, your father's mom, so your fraternal
Yes.
grandmother.
Yes.
Okay.
And so she's my mama. I'll refer to her as my mama, and Mama B, we'll call her. And my mom's mom was the brunette in this picture, which I don't have any other pictures of her. Like, that's how much we were not close. It's
Okay,
so weird.
so the
This
one
is
with the
the
black?
black dress. That's my
Okay, I
grandmother. That
can spot it.
See the
Came right to me.
resemblance. Yeah.
It did.
Now, if you understand, I'm going to blow your guys' mind. This is where we get real interesting in it. So on my father's side, we were related to Jean Lafitte, but technically, what is it, Pierre Lafitte? I think it makes more sense to that, but whatever, because we have no. It's a complicated situation, but we're on my father's side related to pirates, and on this side, if you look at the lady in the blue in the back, she is the direct sister to Joseph Bonanno.
Okay.
So she's Mina Bonanno. She changed her name when she got married to Ward. And so you guys can look it up. I can't make it up.
No, he was let's just say a crime boss.
Yes, he was. And what he ran in the city was all the movie theaters, all the canning facilities, all the ice factories.
Yep.
We were all part of that. My mother worked at the fucking movie theaters. She worked at the canning. If you look into Al Capone, I'm directly related to the family that had ties with this canning facility that they ran guns and everything else out of the facility. I have a journal that my mom wrote from 1969 onwards where she would shroom and write in there. So I have
Nice.
and she went and worked at the canning facility, Al Capone's and Joseph Bonanno's canning facility, for all summer to have enough money to go to the Galapagos Islands to go see the ruins. And she had so many trips where she would like see snakes, and it was real. You know, the snakes were real in the jungle, but she'd see the snakes and they'd like have a voice and all this other shit. So I have it all in a diary that one day I will share. Yeah.
I have had random side note now that you
Yeah.
say that, because
Yeah.
I'm a hippie and I indulge in the psychedelics.
Yes.
I've had very similar trips where like it's like I'm running through this like psychedelic, like digital colorful jungle, and
Yep.
the snakes would like drop down from the trees and I would like run into their mouth
Oh,
and through them and out the back.
wow.
Yeah, so I feel that on
She
a
wrote
level.
She wrote in the diary, which I'll read it out loud one day. She would have loved that. There's so much we're going to talk about why this is all necessary. This is in honor of my mother. This fucking right now, this is in honor of my mother. This whole interview, because there's a part in it. This is like, she's freaking 20 years old, okay? And she says, I'm holding sand and I can understand why we're so precious. Like the
So
sand
she was
grain is us.
connected.
Oh, yeah.
It's connected to the
Not a
earth.
religious freak, came from
No.
Catholic. So at this
Yeah.
point she was just purely herself.
I
And
can.
and so with my mother being such a whatever amazing overachiever and all the things, like she wanted to go to school to be a pastor, a paralegal, a special education teacher, and what else did she try to study? Hold on. The pastor thing was pretty crazy. She could have done it. She was literally like, that's probably how her religion started. Now that I think about what she explained to me, that's what did it. She was indoctrinated going to school to be a pastor. She didn't think she wanted to, but she wanted to learn religion. And
So
that's,
do you
yeah.
feel like your mother was told that's what she needed to
Oh,
do?
let me go. Oh, thank you for saying that. You're so great. Sorry. Let me put this joint out for a second just so I don't waste it. So when my mother was married to my father, it was real love. But what happened was is he started having an addiction issue and she didn't know what to do. She worked all the time. She thought maybe he just needs distractions. I let him have all his bikes. We can fucking afford this shit. She was all happy about Spiegel catalog and like buying shit. She was very into a beautiful aesthetic house, like very much so. So my father just went with the roles, and I was like, he would like put me in a Harley shirt and bring me to a bar and be like, look at my baby girl. Like that's a real thing. So my mom, they live
Ugh,
totally different class of lives, if you understand that.
I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And my
It's a
mom, like,
status
she
thing.
hated being on a motorcycle. If she was a lot, she would scream out loud, that fucking bike. She wouldn't say fucking. That's my word. She'd say, that bike burns my leg every time. My mom was only 5 foot, German and Italian, and Blackfoot Indian. So that's the soul of my
Oh,
mother
she
right
was
there.
related to the earth. She wanted to move. She wanted to flow. She wanted to
Yes.
fly. She wanted to walk. She just wanted to be barefoot
And
in the
and on my
fields.
father's side, it was I think we have some it's like Amsterdam. So what is that? What would that be?
What do you
Not Norwegian, that's wrong. I don't know.
uh
Amsterdam, uh
Nordic?
Nordic. Yeah, Nordic. Um
Yeah, I guess you would consider it Nordic. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
Irish
Mm-hmm.
and French.
Polish any? No Poland?
Nope,
No?
that's it. I'm
That's
very
shocking.
European and
Right.
Blackfoot Indian as well, which is kind of creepy because both of the families talk about, and look, you guys just look it up. Both of the
Okay.
families say that we are related to Nancy Ward on both sides, which makes me creeped out.
Oh, like it's intertwined family?
Yeah,
Okay.
intertwined. So
That's a
Blackfoot,
good word.
it could have been a complete lie. Who knows? We don't know about that part, but we do know 100% that there, if you trace back, like Jean Lafitte, the reason that he left Europe is he was Jewish and they kicked him out. Believe it or not,
Yes.
guys,
We
Jewish.
can tell the whole story about that because he is a very big part of Louisiana, honestly,
hmm
history.
Yes,
But
and
a bigger question I have for you since we're on
yes,
this topic, have you ever uh, dove into finding out your background, whether it be through DNA or
I
uh,
know that
a
we
link?
were. I went during the pandemic. I had a lot of time. We all did. So
Right.
during the pandemic, I did a ton of research to go backwards, backwards, backwards. My father is a Coleman of the fifth. When I
Okay.
looked into it, they are the original Mayflower people that came.
Right.
If you go everyone back, I'm able to trace myself back to the coast of North Carolina on my father's side, and that he bought plantations all the way up the border of the water. So we're going all the way down to Florida, all the way down left to right, all the way up to basically, if you think about it, the border of Texas. He had
Yeah.
owned things everywhere. And I have very strong feelings about that shit. I know we are coming from a different time period, but I couldn't dive too much into my father's side on that side because it
It didn't feel
upset me.
right.
I found
Right.
a lot of written confirmations of how they even treated their slaves and whatnot in the
Right.
PDFs that I found, because on at least my father's side, there's a huge amount of archives of written letters from our family lineage, like that were uploaded onto one thing, which is crazy. I mean, there's a lot of Colemans out there. That's my last name. If you haven't figured it out, I've been making art for a long time. Put it out there public. So I'm not ashamed of that. But don't come and friend request me on Facebook. I will deny you.
Well, the
Fact.
thing I'm asking if you've done like a blood
Yeah. No,
research.
I want to. I've never been able to
Okay.
afford that, but I would
Well,
love
here's the
to.
thing with that. I was talking to a personal close friend of our little group,
Yeah.
actually, and they did it 3 times, and the DNA and the tracing changed every time they
What?
did it.
So it's not something to, yeah, no.
Well, you just
I
never
just,
really know the motive or what is
right,
legit or what's not. I mean,
right. What I do find interesting is that when we look at the documents of my grandma, Bonanio,
mhm.
she wrote her name with one less N until she was married. So when she got off the boat from Sicily, because that's
Yep.
where we're
That's
originally
where they came
from,
from. Yep.
she denounced him immediately and didn't want anything to do with it. And we're talking, she's a hardcore religious woman. There was no way she would have condoned his behavior or wanted anything to do with it. She was trying to start over. And if you look into Sicilian mobs, they did not fucking like that shit. They wanted
Nope.
us to leave the fucking country if we were going to try to control shit. Things were done their way and you weren't going to try to change it.
Well, they
So,
came from a very big, like the Casalonia del Golfo,
mhm.
Sicily. So they were
And when I
very
mean
organized,
an Italian
methodical.
ball of sweetness, that's all I remember. She passed away, and I was 3 when she passed away. So that is crazy. I remember her, but I do. And it was when I mean the funeral for her was massive and
Mhm.
somber. Like there was nothing but tears in the crowd I can remember. So that's saying something. Like, and because it wasn't spoken about until I was in my 20s, do you understand, guys? Nobody told me that I was related to this kind of shit until I was in my 20s, and probably because the 80s and the 90s were full of mob problems,
Well, I
which
have a
we know.
question. So I
Yes.
know that Benigno had 3 children.
I don't even know.
Uh,
I just know I
no, I know.
found
I'm,
her
I'm
name
speaking.
backwards.
I'm speaking facts. We don't even have to get
Yes.
into all that.
Right,
She
right.
could have
No, but
been
it's important to talk about. Yeah.
a niece, a nephew, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the case may be.
Right.
But it's very prominent to say that uh, it's wild about the plantations, how you were talking
Yeah.
about, and the correlation and the mob, the
Yep.
whole thing. It kind of stops at Texas. That's why I brought it up,
Yep.
because I don't think people understand that a lot of the Benigno, lots of organized crime
Yep.
came out
Started
of
in
NOLA.
New Orleans. Pirates
It
and
came
mob
from there.
fought each other. Then we
Yes,
created gangs in the other places. Sorry,
that's right.
people.
Just telling
Facts.
everybody to reconfirm
And when
a
I
lot of.
mean New Orleans was ruthless, I mean it was ruthless. When I mean that I was probably lucky to have been in that family because your business would not exist unless you conformed.
That's right. That's how it was. And that's kind of where it goes down to the uh NOLA is very I would say up until maybe I'm probably still to this day very Catholic. Maybe you
Oh,
can
very
confirm
much.
that with me. And a lot of mobs are very Catholic. That's just
Mhm.
one of the seemingly traits that mobs have.
Mhm.
So it just shocks me, honestly, Rachel,
Mhm.
that you weren't like in the Catholicism that.
She was member of the black sheep of the family. So she didn't even
Right.
go to events and shit. She didn't fucking play around with that. Cause if she look, let's paint a picture. If she were to have went to, let's say, Easter dinner and she didn't go to mass with them, you would not be
Mhm.
comfortable at that fucking dinner.
Correct. That's what just is just very. It's cool. It's at the
Hmm.
same time I'm intrigued because I just know
Now, my
that.
grandmother, I said that her mother, I said that Mina, Grandma
Uh-huh.
Mina, was very sweet, but her daughter, anime, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm going to give names. She's gone. She's long gone. Think of it like this: ex-alcoholic, has 5 kids, has been married twice. um the first husband you ever had, this is my grandma, this is a true story, guys. The first husband she ever had was a scam artist. He came to her house, he found out, no, I'm sorry, second one, her second husband saw the obituary for her first husband and went to her door and tried to sell her a Bible. And that's how, and he
Oh
had done it.
my.
He had 14 wives and died of alcoholism in Florida. So that says a lot. He was a bygone that would go into the obituaries and look for widows, and he did it to my grandma. And that's how my other half uncles and aunts who were on the second side of it, because there was an Air Force guy that passed away, and then there was this other guy. So the Air Force one I never got to meet,
Mhm.
um because, like, from what I understand, hold on, let me make sure I'm saying the story right. It's the second one. Hold on, because my
We're
mom met her
we're
father when she was 16, and
right.
he came on to her, and she was freaked the fuck out, and it was like stuck in a car situation. So my mom had already had like that kind of intuition of like, don't need a man, don't need a, Like because my grandmother owned a bar. My mom had curly hair, and this is something she would say. I'm telling you, if she was here, she'd say this. This just picture this. I took the beer bottles and I roll them in my hair because we were too poor to have a fucking curling iron. So as an
Right.
Italian German girl, I just rolled that shit up and I had fucking bone straight hair. It was wonderful. She'd sleep on the bear cans.
I can visualize it.
Yeah.
It was a
I
huge,
know,
it
a
was a
hippie
thing.
with no bra. With I'm just telling you, true ass hippie. So, and she did do the practices in New Orleans where they burn the bras. She worked at the New Orleans. Hold on. Oh God, I have pictures of it. I'll put it on my
Oh,
Instagram
well,
today. New
was it a,
Orleans hotel where you had to wear ball gowns and stuff. She worked there for years. That's what taught her refinement.
oh,
Hotel.
like a finishing school,
No,
but
she
etiquette
was
school?
no. In the 70s, they made you wear a dress as a person, like an actual
Oh, a
ball
debutante.
dress. Like that, but you were an employee. You had to wear gloves, everything in this hotel. And it was like Victorian or Renaissance style. Like it was so made. I don't know what I have it. I'll share it later. But my mom didn't have class. Do you understand, guys? She didn't
Yes.
have class. She had a mother who owned a bar and she worked in a bar. Okay. Owned it and ran it. And that meant, what did that mean? Not men were around, but my grandma was hardcore. So I can
Right.
remember very fucking vividly her a chain smoker. She hated cannabis. From all her life, she hated it. Like, I used to actually have more fucking positive memories with my grandma after my mom died and I go visit her. She'd be like, "You gonna smoke a cigarette with me?" And it was like, okay. That was how we bonded. When I go to her funeral, like, all of us put our buds, on the side of the curve, but then we went and left a cigarette in her spot by the thing, because that's how she was, like hardcore Italian rough. And I remember when I was 6, I was at a Christmas party, and this is when I stopped seeing my grandma. Like, we left town shortly after this, so it kind of does go in hand as we're giving the timeline here, Brennan.
So was it, just real quick, it just
Okay.
came to head. Was it the Croissant Hotel? The Croissant?
I don't know. I
I
thought
think
it
it
was
is.
Hotel New
Hotel
Orleans, but I think that's
Montalion.
maybe, but it's no longer exists, and it was very I mean, like, you had
It's Hotel Montalion. It's on St. Charles Avenue.
probably
But
she knew
anyways,
how to. My mom taught me that you don't fucking, if you don't know how to do it, learn. If you want to do
fake it
that,
till you
do
make
it.
it.
Yeah, no, not fake it. Never fake it. Like, it's yours.
No,
Just take it.
you got to own it. You got to
Yep.
you got to be in it before you can.
Right.
Sometimes you don't have the
There's
monetary means,
I
so you
there's a
have
remember we.
saying
Sorry, go
in
ahead.
my neck of the woods, don't talk about it, be about it.
yeah.
Facts. Yeah. So, and my mom's name was Cindy, just for context, but she was born Cynthia. So, and our middle name, I want to say it, but I don't. I shouldn't, for
Just
doxing reasons.
middle
A, but
initial.
it's such a
Okay.
fucking amazing name. I have to. Fuck it all. Should I? No, tell me not to.
I
Okay.
mean, we are
It,
on the internet.
we are on the internet. I mean, I've
It's
already
not.
said, I don't know. It's interesting. Anyway, we're not going to put
It's
that
okay.
another
It's
time.
okay. It's okay. This is a
But
tribute to your mother. If you feel like it's a tribute to your mother, and you do your gut's good, Rachel. You've got one of the best.
I'll just say the
Yeah, this is
important
your
stuff.
show. You
Right.
do what
I
you
feel
feel
like
is
so
right.
far I'm really happy with what I said, but I want to like paint the picture better. So my mom's mother was never able to connect. Like, I would say that she was fucking brought up. I've never said this out loud. Here it comes. She's brought up by a narcissist. My mother should have been fucked up. She really should have been. She didn't have the innate with her mother that, like, her mother would have never put her arms around her and hugged her. That was not a thing
I know that feeling.
at all. Like, when I mean my mom took the mattress out the house and dragged it through the hallway, she has told me that story so many times when I was a child. She's like, "Do you understand? They tried to take my weed. I said, fuck them. I took my books. I got my mattress." And my grandma's like, I think I remember her saying that grandma was like, "Mama, mama,
You didn't
uh,
say anything. You just said
sorry.
mama.
Yeah.
Mama, you're good.
She would say, "No, you're going to keep that," or that mattress is mine, or something. I think that happened. I don't know how that, but I know that the mattress sliding down the hallway, every family member talks about that. Like, my mom was like a fuck you. So she started living with my Aunt Sissy, who's still alive. Shout out to Aunt Sissy, who is the example of me. She never had kids. I thought I was going to be just like Aunt Sissy. She was a workaholic. She was a contractor and a woman at that in New Orleans, working with big people. And she was brilliant. So my mom called Aunt Sissy and was like, "Can I come live with you?" And she did. She went and lived with her. But Aunt Sissy could look the other way and let my mom live a little bit because she really knew how her
She
sister
needed to let her
was.
hair down.
Yeah, she knew how her
Right.
sister was. And I'm telling you that she is the reason that I am not fucked up. That my Aunt Sissy would tell me, your grandma doesn't know how to love. Your grandma does, like, let it go. You're fighting a dead horse, beating a dead horse. So, because I was like, on the coin of this is that I can love really deep, guys. You know it. I can love strangers really deep. It's because my mom taught me that. My mom's side of the family did not teach her that. She learned that with like fucking,
Skill.
like,
Mm,
I guess real
yeah.
life. I don't know how else to put
Real
that.
life.
You
You
know,
can't
Real
fake
life and
love.
uh, real
oh,
life, and in my experience,
psychedelics probably.
she was, yeah, if she was this like hippie free spirit
Yeah.
kind of, like, it sounds like she wasn't just having trips to, like, oh, I'm gonna do drugs and
No.
feel weird. It was like something she took serious and actually
Yes.
took in, and that's a
Yes.
lot
Oh,
of
and
what
she
it will teach you is how to love
facts.
very freely. And like, I mean,
And
there's a reason hippie culture is like all love.
my mother never made sexuality a bad thing in our lives. In fact, that when I was abused, she had to work her whole life until she died to deprogram me to be afraid of sex, point blank. Okay. Because
Right.
my mother, and even in that journal and everywhere, my mother was sex positive, very feminist almost. Like, you go get yours. You know what I mean? I hate to say it like that, but I was influenced by, and this is a lot more in detail in the interview I'll link below that I talked about before. But I mean, my mother was like by 12, like, let's talk about sex and all the things and all the things. So like, I think her hippie side helped me not be afraid of humanity. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, we were indoctrinated to not ask too many questions, but she denounced religion probably by the time I was 16. So, like a year after I stopped. And she did denounce it. I wouldn't say that. It was more like, I don't need to go to church and lay on the floor in the back because I'm fucking sick from chemo. They can fuck off. Like,
Right.
that's a fact. They had churches that would call my mom and be like, this is going to affect your health because she wasn't there. That's some sick shit, but it was real. So of course I have my feelings for a reason. And
Right. And
and
that's
it's
kind of
like they
why
didn't
I
get her
asked about
tithing
that.
that week.
That's kind of why I asked about that, is because a lot of like religious households or people that are brought up to be very religious, it's like then, that kind of thing happens where someone close to you gets sick or there's some tragedy, and they're like, well, my whole life I've been told that this God and these prophets are supposed to protect me,
Mhm.
and what the fuck is this? How did this
Right.
happen if this thing is supposed to be looking out for me?
Facts. So let me go back for a second here. Remember I told you guys that my mom was married to my father for a long time, and I think it might have been like 7 years in is when she started to try to have kids because the church told her she had to. Like, I'm not saying it a little, guys. I'm saying they thought that their marriage wasn't honoring God. And she explained
Correct.
this to me, that she felt all of a sudden pressure from the church. And then it became a conversation with my father. And my father was like, of course I want, let's do it. Why haven't you gotten pregnant yet? Da, 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 da. So she went to a fertility clinic and found out she was pregnant. Fucking weird.
So
So here we keep going. Yeah.
I'm intrigued because
So
going there back
she was
then
freaked
must
out and she was like, all right, okay, we're doing this. But then she was fucking happy. Like, I mean, happy as fuck because she had a purpose that was beyond him. Okay. That's her words, not mine. Um, so this is her pregnant, and that's my great grandma in the background. She's no longer with us. She was the one we were talking about in your interview that she was 98 years old. and
Mhm.
driving a car at like 50 miles an hour on a 35, and nobody stopped her. They just didn't give a
That's
fuck.
right.
And my uncle to the left, he's a homosexual, and that's a huge part of this too, is that I was mind fucked at an early age to be like, because my grandmother did not accept his homosexuality ever, even down to her last breath. She would lived in denial. So I had a lot of mind fucks where you look one way and you are, but you know it the other. It's fucking weird. So, and he is a good person, but then he ended up having he still has some substance abuse issues that are why I don't fucking like when I get sad and crave alcohol, I don't fucking do it because I'm just like my father, my uncle, everybody.
You have an
My
addictive
mother,
personality.
yeah, it's a
That
damn defect. It's not
right.
good. But I want to put this on the screen because imagine all those people aren't there, but me and my mom are sitting next to each other on that couch. You see where she's sitting?
I do.
Well, you see where the dress is? I was sitting right there. And then let's put it like this. I had been going through many appearances and situations with my father leading up until I was about 5 to 6 years old. Let me take this off the screen for a second, just so you get context. Just keep your mind there. My father became more belligerent and drinking and everything else to the point that he'd get high and I guess it's high, maybe drunk, and he'd leave the oven on or
Oh
the
no.
coffee pot on or things like that, and it lit our kitchen
Uh,
on fire, and I was
of
asleep and my mother was asleep
um,
with him, and then we're talking about like a 50-yard distance, and my room was on the other side of that wall, and it's a miracle I'm still here because he was so belligerent. By that point she started being like sick of it, and he like I said, there were random people coming in our house that he'd pick up off the street and make it claim like he was helping them. Like, I'm sure he got a tax write-off from that shit, to be real. So,
so
you know, um,
this was
he,
like before fronts were a front. This
yeah,
is
and I
before like
remember the homeless people because I remember him. This is not a joke. I'm going to describe it. It triggers me to like describe this, but I have to. I can remember going down to the edge of the quarter back in the early or no late 80s. Okay, so we're like saying like 88, 89. Like I was only a few years old. I remember this from the back seat in the car seat where a homeless man would throw dirt on your windshield and then
mhm.
spray it and start making mud.
Yep.
Oh
And then
yeah. And
expect
then
you
they
to
try
pay
to
Uh-huh.
them.
charge you for it.
And you know
Like,
what my father would do? He'd pull a $20 bill out of his pocket. He'd roll the window down. He'd say, "Man, please do that for me, but come on, come with us. Let's go feed you and get you something to eat. I mean, I'll get you something,
oh,
give you a bath." It was just like that. And nobody else was in the car. Me, this person. I only
But
remember a few people. I don't know where they actually went or came from. I just kind of remember parts of it. But I remember the fucking dirt on the windshield like nothing. It's so crazy that they finally stopped them from doing that because it was like a
mhm.
good 15 years that happened in New Orleans. So,
but
and
it
I'm not
also
exaggerating.
sounds like
Wild.
kind of what you're saying is he clearly had abuse
Yep.
issues
From
and
like
shit going on, but he was kind of using like
front.
the charitable, like, oh, look at
Yes.
me, I'm a good guy, I help homeless dudes, but in the background
Uh,
he's this like
slime
fucking addicted,
monster.
sorry,
And
but
he's
kind of
abusive.
asshole.
And he's a racist. And he literally was part of the Ku Klux Klan, guys.
So
So
what
he
do
would go
you
straight up to these people and then act like a friend and then totally get rid of them the right way.
do you feel like he was a narcissist?
Oh, he's beyond that. He's a sociopath, like an
Uh,
actual dangerous one. And I mean, I already have alluded, but like, don't make your imagination confuse you guys. The woman disappeared, he was married to. Nobody can find her.
right.
Yeah, I had some questions about that. So you
Now, what
think
he,
maybe he had a hand in that,
a
or
hundred
at least knew
thousand
about it?
billion%. And if her family ever needs help and you're listening to this, call me. Facts,
Yeah.
okay? Because the family doesn't know, and there is so much. Okay, let me go to the real points here. So, why do I think that he could really do something as well? Because he had a long history, about I'd say 10 to 15 years, of making money in the fish market by blowing up fish. He would just take bombs, throw it in the water, and get all the fish, and it was legal to do that in Louisiana for a long, long time. He was a boat. He had he had we had money, okay? At when I remember having every toy and anything I wanted, and I was not a girly girl, okay? but we had boats, we had four-wheelers, we had ducks in the backyard, and that he kidnapped from lakefront. The can you believe that, Brennan?
No,
He
I
kidnapped
can.
a duck from Lafayette Park and brought it home, and we took care of that thing for years. We had a
Why
parrot,
would
like
you kidnap
expensive.
a duck?
He's psycho. He's
Ugh.
psycho.
It's
Okay, anyway,
it's not funny, but yeah,
it's
what the
fucked up. He
No,
wanted
I'm
it, he
taking
took
that
it.
duck.
And
This is
I can
mine now.
imagine him doing it on a motorcycle. I'm not even making this up, guys. Like, it's a fact. He was hardcore. Like, that's where my craziness comes from a little bit. But let's just admit, okay, facts. So anyway, we had artichokes growing in the backyard and figs, and I remember a swing set and a playhouse, and it was like perfect. I have pictures of this shit. I will share it on my Instagram and tag this video in the future. And this is Mary Kennedy Blunt, so I will be sharing some of this with like better context in the future. That's how I
No,
can
you're
add the
doing a really
pictures.
good job.
But in the backyard, my playhouse existed, and like I said, I had anything and everything. I didn't have like the electronic fucking Barbie car, which that would have been mad cool, but I didn't get that.
Nah, you think that.
But I
You
got
think
all
that.
the Barbies. I got everything, right? And let's just keep in mind, I said I had a lot of shit. Now, when my father decided to start not obeying a divorce proceeding, I don't know, how does it go, Brennan, where it's like not 100% in, but they're like,
Oh,
meet at
you
this
get
next
a
time.
you can get a legal separation.
Yes, they were working on that. And my mom, now trigger warning, guys, this is not going to be easy to talk about or for you guys to digest.
Okay, well,
I
let's
am
take
going to
this at
do
steps then.
I'm going to do
Well,
whatever I can do to pull up police documents very soon in the future so we can talk about this more in depth. But um there was a place called the Party House or the Playhouse, I don't know what it is. It was a place where kids could go and hang out, and they had like fun games. The Chuck E. Cheese is existing there now in New Orleans, in Metairie. And my best friend's mom owned it, and they were part of Victory as well. And they basically had a great little way to, they were good people. I don't know how else to say that. And we'll just call them the Peas, okay? And the
okay.
Peas knew that my mom was in jeopardy, and they were the kind of people that my mom could come over every day and get prayer from, okay? And I used to play with her daughter. They had 5 kids, these people, and I played with her youngest, and she let my mother let her know, the mother, that we were going to probably leave Louisiana because it was getting bad, because he would kidnap me over and over. I mean, literally, guys, take me at a red light, take his hand through the fist through the window and break the glass, and then like in a 90-degree angle, lift me out the car, legs skip, he would kidnap me and take me with him on his motorcycle, which I don't know if you understand as like a 5-year-old being thrown in a bike where he takes his motorcycle or his helmet off and throws it on you. And all I remember is seeing the fucking glass, like, what the fuck is happening? And
Right.
scared. And mommy, 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 screaming. I remember that. And my mom was not pregnant yet with my brother. She was dealing with, and I have to bring it back on the screen just to give context. That's a screen door, right? Do you see the lamp? Approximately where the lamp is where, trigger warning, guys. Okay, so the front door exists there. You see that outward, the 2 windows in the front, and there's like no greenery. That was the
Yes.
master bedroom. That was the main part of the bedroom. On the right side of that is where we kept our trash cans. There's the reason I'm bringing that up because of all the context I'm going to share. So then in the black door, as you see, there's a glass window. He would open the door, break the window though, to get the door open. And my mom just got used to that third panel on the window in the middle being retaped up every single day for about a year.
Whoa.
And it was every day. Like I'm saying, I would hear glass all the time. He just decided when he wanted to come home. Okay. It was his house as far as he was concerned. And his fucking ex-wife at that point, soon to be, was not going to, if he couldn't have her, nobody could.
I know that
That was
feeling.
my baby. That's how he felt. He said it to me. That was my baby. You were my baby girl, meaning me. They called me Ray Ray. Like, you're my Ray. I fucking hate those words. Anyway, you're my Ray Ray, and your mom is not going to take me from you. So,
Ooh.
it's hard for me to say that. I like, get
Yeah, I
so
know
upset.
that's
Hold on, I gotta take a second. I'm sorry,
take a
guys.
second. I like
Sorry. I'm sorry,
even
guys.
just no, don't be sorry. It's this
So
is your time reflecting on
I
that
think the glass being
house.
broken on the window had more impact than probably the gun under the bed that my mom told me about when I was about 5.5, almost 6. Um, um, she had to sleep with a gun because he decided to start raping her regularly.
Right.
And I was in the bed with him. I mean, with her, because I couldn't sleep at night, and I was a mama's girl, and my mom was not, she was not using me in any way. I'll make it clear to the fucking listeners. She didn't use me to keep her okay. She was terrified for me. I'd already had very dramatic moments where, do you understand, trying to find a man on a motorcycle with a child with no helmet is you call the police. That's all you can do. And it's New
Oh,
Orleans in the fucking late 80s. What are you able to do? They send patrols
nothing.
out, and they go on the I-10, and they go on all the back roads, and they just look for the fucking bike that's been said. So
Can
he had
you
a Harley, a red Harley. I'll never forget it. And if you can imagine, he got the garage because he had a lawnmower in
motorcycle?
service, a motorcycle, all the bomb equipment, which I have a split in my finger because he wanted to show me how to make a bomb when I was 5. And he took my hand. If you know what a press is, a bullet press,
Yes,
it's
presses that you
exactly
can
what I remember it is. Like, I know what a resin press is now, but let me tell you, I knew what a bullet press was when I was 6
same.
because he put my hand in there and it slammed down and it fucking bent my finger, and it's never been the same ever, ever. Like, I look at it regularly and think about that shit. So,
Man.
just so you guys understand, my PTSD is different than others. So if I sound a little fucked up at times, it's because shit's too hard to understand. So
Right.
hold on a second.
No, it's okay. Take your time. It's hard to embrace the fuck if you haven't even dealt with it. I feel like
Well, he's still alive, so I hope he gets to die listening to this one day. That's a
it's
fact.
just I'm gonna
But
make a little laugh as assholes live forever.
yeah, man. Oh,
And
I'm so getting ready for his ghost to haunt
Facts.
me and me to continue to have a seance of getting rid of him.
right,
Facts.
right.
I'm not trying
Yeah.
to sound silly. Oh
No,
my
we have to
God.
have a
Okay.
laugh. We had to have a little laugh in there.
All right. So if you can imagine, my most traumatic point at that point was aware that my father brought this is, I'm just going to compartmentalize it for you guys. He brought people into my house. I didn't know who they were, that I'd open the bathroom to go potty, and there would be a African American man naked in my bathtub. And I go, "Oh my God." And he'd say, "Oh no." I'm not even kidding. I remember that shit a lot. Okay. More than once happened. Because I was my own house. I was a little girl. Why would you think to go into your bathroom? What the hell? We didn't have pets. So it was like, to shut the door was just like a classy thing. I don't know how else to put that. So I remember that, walking in on that, seeing the garage real dark and gloomy and smelling like motor oil like nothing, and
Oh,
bullet
one car
fucking
garage.
the one car garage. And then I can remember my mom's record players and all of our plants and the animals and shit. Like, it wasn't bad, it was just like we bought things we wanted. Okay. And she had like the finest china, and like we would polish the shit. It was like that. So on the
Oh.
outside it looked great, but my father was like a drinking, abused, a man's man. Like, he would go out on I guess it's a poncho. I don't know what the fuck they are. Those boats that have the motor on the outside. Like, you hang
Oh,
off the ends.
a
It's a
pontoon, not a pontoon boat.
pontoon?
Wait,
Maybe.
with the fan or no fan?
No fan. It's just a regular
Pontoon
propeller.
boat.
He would
Pontoon boat.
have that, and we go to the spillway, and we would
Ugh.
that's where we hung out. So we were at the spillway a lot. I can remember being burnt on my head, even having brown hair, being burnt on my head and my face. And he would just take me when my mom didn't say it was okay. I was supposed to be with my grandma, who was supposed to be like, just like your situation in your life, Brennan, the
Mhm.
secure one. Okay. So after, we're saying, six months of your filing for divorce, and then, mind you, the reason I bring up the whole assault towards my mother is that I didn't find this out until I was like 32, 31 years old, after I visited New Orleans, after I was a parent. And my mom's best friend, the one I mentioned at the beginning, who this is going to come up over and over, her name is Miss Karen. And Miss Karen and what was his name? Rodriguez, I don't remember his first name. I think his name was Rodriguez, but anyway, her husband who died of the cancer in the Mack truck,
Right.
she remarried later, and we'll get into that later, but her daughter Jennifer was an older, like I was like 6 and she was like 9, okay? So she was more coherent and whatever else. And she admits that she was an only child, so she would listen in on her mommy all the fucking time, okay? Just stand in the hallway and listen for fun. So she had more than a fucking handful of stories to tell me in different occasions later down the road about what I'm about to explain. So he would break into the house in the day, he would break into the house at night, he would break in the house while we were eating dinner. Okay, all the time. Just it's like I don't even fucking
Whoa.
know anymore. I don't even fucking know. Like, why she should have put bars on the windows. I don't know. Anyway, because he would just
Hindsight
put, and I
is
remember his hand coming through the door, guys. I remember seeing it. And so my
right.
mom started having a gun and and there was a fight that ensued at one point, more than once, actually. I'm remembering another one that we have to talk about. So I have scoliosis for real. I had it since 5 on. Okay, we'll talk about that more in detail. But my mom, when we were putting up that he had an anger issue in general. Okay. When we were putting up the swing set I was talking about, why he chose to do it in the living room had probably to do with the fucking drugs he was on. But he was trying to put the parts together from what it was explained to me. And he got mad at my mother, and I was in her
Uh,
arms, and he took one of the pipes and threw it at her, and me and her threw against the wall and fell. And I was told by a doctor later on that this could have been an injury that caused my spine to grow like that, because I was a baby. I was like under a year old when I was thrown with a pipe in her, and we both hit the floor. Okay. She had
yeah.
been choked out in the hallway regularly. I can remember very vivid. Like, just like literally, he'd get mad. He'd corner her, and they were the kind of parents that would fight in the hallway quietly and then get louder and louder. And so I would stand on the other side of the hallway and be in fear and just frozen, just shaking, just sitting on the floor, not rocking, not any of that, just like don't know where to go, don't know where to move.
Trying to feel it out.
And I
Yeah.
have a lot of PTSD with that, more so than anything else. When I freak out, I just stand straight. Like, I'm not moving. It's bad. So when I panic on my own, it happens. When I was a child and it was mirrored for me, like, how do you help this situation? That's the earliest memory I have about him putting hands on her and slapping her or putting his hands around her neck and choking her out, like more than ever. That's what I remember. So he'd lift her off the ground. She was 5 foot. He was like 6'2". He lifted her off the ground, put her as high as he could on the wall, and like scare her. And she'd be like, she his nickname is Rocky. So she'd be like, Rocky, 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 Rocky. And he'd slowly let her down. And so he didn't like to leave the house. He liked to stay there and get madder and madder. That's what I remember. So he had
Mm,
guns, and that was a big deal. He wasn't military. He just had guns. He was a biker with guns. And as early as like 4 or 5, I can remember we'd go again. He would just take me without permission, and he'd bring me to like I don't know what, I guess it's I-10 all the way to Florida. Is that right?
mm,
Okay. Because I
it
remember we would go
depends
to the
on the.
outskirts of the woods in Florida, and he'd practice shoot with me. I would be
Yeah.
holding the gun, and he'd be showing me how to do it at 5. Facts. So I don't
It
feel
just
like that
depends
was
on the
good then.
way.
I don't feel like that was good in any way. Like, a lot of people I grew up with in New Orleans told me, my dad did too. I'm like, but that's not right. Like, five?
Right.
Yeah, I
5?
was gonna say like that's
Crazy.
here might be a big story because it's
Yep.
very much like a hunting culture. So like yeah,
Yep.
I was shooting guns at 5, but
Were
it
you?
was also more of like it
To
wasn't just
survive.
like fucking take the kid and go out to a gun
Yeah.
or like that all sounds
No.
sketchy. It was
It
more
is.
of like hey, you're gonna need to know how to do this because we're taking your ass hunting
No.
and we're gonna fucking
Imagine
get
it.
some meat so we don't starve.
Right,
Imagine
right.
it, see,
Survival.
Pals. Imagine it like this. You're the kid, right? And you're like scared. And you're like, no, daddy, no, I don't want to do it. And he says, we're not leaving till you shoot that fucking gun.
Right. And it was very much
Oh, that's a
a
lot of pressure.
different, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And I'm
like,
a little girl trying to be girly eyed in a very, very gender fucking focused community. That's a fact
yeah,
about New Orleans. Okay.
that's a
You are a
whole
girl, you act
different
like a girl.
story. Like, that's,
Yeah, man.
You're
It was
right about
I
that.
mean, abuse. It's
hardcore.
psychological abuse to be
Yeah,
like, no,
man,
you're gonna fucking do
100%.
this, and there's no other. Like, this is not a
And he
choice.
would get okay, so I remember being a little girl going, "Daddy, please don't smoke." And if he hears this episode, he's so fucked up, he would think, and I'm telling you now, if you're listening, just because I reference you as daddy doesn't mean I'll ever do that ever again. You've never deserved that. Because that's something he would call me and be like, just call me daddy. What? Fucking
Yeah,
disgusting. Like, didn't even want to talk to me, just want to hear my fucking voice say it. It's
I know
disgusting.
how that is on a different
So,
level, so I can relate to these moments of,
so, and I'm sure I'm triggering all the little girls out there dealing with this shit themselves because it's facts. These
it's
people
also
live in
awareness
caves.
as
It is
well.
awareness. That's why I'm not afraid to cover this kind of shit because it's fucking happened. So, anyway, so he had been kidnapping, he had been breaking in, he had then assaulted my mother. She became pregnant 11 days before the divorce was final.
Oh, I know how that is.
And I can only remember, as I gave you context, that my mother never told me personally the assault and those details. She gave me everything that made it real when I found out from my mom's friend. But like she would tell me on a regular basis, like a PTSD victim would, or a obviously sexual assault survivor would, where she'd say it and repeat it while she's pregnant and after my brother was born, would say, I'm just going to put him in a shoebox and I'm going to leave him on the doorstep. I'm just going to put him in a shoebox and leave him on the doorstep. She would repeat it. It was really scary because like I didn't understand that. This my little brother
Oh,
was so
yes.
confused. I was 6 years old when he was born. He was not allowed at the hospital because we already had a restraining order. I'm already going too ahead. I need to go back a little bit more. So before he was born, my mom was like 7 months pregnant. I have videos to prove this, and I'm going to have Brennan's help and some others in the community help me prove this story, but it's a fact. So, um, I'm going to go with the first incident and then we'll get into the bombs. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, however you
Okay.
Yes.
want to tell your
So
story. I think you're doing a very good job
I'm
of
trying.
painting
It's
a
fucking
picture
hard.
of kind of
Crazy
your
shit.
childhood.
Man, there's nothing fucking cute about it. I don't even know how to tell you, but here it comes. So, remember I said I would stand there frozen after they would fight? I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do. I was not a help. Okay. I didn't scream. I didn't make a noise. I would probably put my hands over my fucking cheeks and just sit there. Like literally like um grabbing my knuckles and just kind of like squeezing my head. I don't know how else to say that. That's the only thing I can
Right.
imagine. And I remember one day he was at the door. He just was at the door. My father was not, and he wasn't knocking and he wasn't trying to break in. He was standing at the fucking screen door just staring at us. I guess he was drunk. I don't fucking know, but he wanted to start a fight. So my mom's like, "What are you doing here? You don't have visitation until such and such." My mom still gave him visitation, but I have zero real memories of us doing anything together. It's very strange, guys. So there's probably some shit that's blacked out for a fucking reason. But he's standing at the door and he says, "Let me in." My mom had always locked the screen because she was smart enough to know that it was a warning sign if he pulled on it. She could hear it, like, you know? And he came in. My mom's trying to be chill. She's so fucking pregnant. And we had a phone on the wall in the living room that had a long cord. And it had like the cord that went up the wall and then the long curly cord. And it was like tan, like a plastic one, straight early 90s. And my mom was very pregnant, so we had a recliner and she went to sit in the recliner as he just mouthed off at her and says, "So what the fuck? You really fucking want to do this?" Like all kinds of shit. And that's my son. We're going to be together. Said to her, I remember it. If I can't have you, nobody's fucking going to have you. You've been cheating on me. I know you've been cheating on me. Why the fuck? And my mom had never
Oh,
cheated.
I can relate to this
Yeah.
on another level.
I had already I didn't start showing signs of what I'm going to talk about in a minute. So we just got to hold on. I got to put a note down. Hold on. Because my brain's in 50 directions. Sorry.
No, no.
So my mom's at the door dealing with him, lets him in. And she was a very calculated person. I say that because she was. Like, if you were fighting with her, she talked very melodically, very whatever. almost get you more mad you weren't getting her mad, okay? So,
Yeah.
and that was like that being her daughter too, because I'd be like, Mom, talk to me. Are you upset? She's like, I'm furious. Like, what?
Oh, I had
What?
to.
What?
Yep.
What do I do to fix this?
Don't
I
make
don't
me give you the
know.
eye.
Yep, like just
I said that
it was
yesterday,
insane.
actually.
So, but anyway, and he was a Cancer and she was a Capricorn. So we're talking. If she said something, she really meant it, and if she wasn't going to repeat it, she wasn't going to repeat it. So he comes in and he's like, "Why aren't we together? What's going to happen?" And that's my baby. And she's like, "We're getting a divorce. It's over. It's over." And they start yelling, and he takes a lamp plugged in on the fucking chair next to her. And I told you guys the story wrong the other day when we were talking about it. I forgot, and then it flashed back in detail. So I'm going to give it to the exact way that it was done. He lifted the lamp that was like a big round pear looking thing. It was made out of like porcelain, and he threw it at her head. She jumped out of the chair. I remember it busted, it sparked everywhere, and then it was pulled out of the wall. So that went on the ground. There is a recording on VHS my mom took of the whole entire incident after she was shook up and had the cops come. So I have that. I got to find it and I'm going to upload it. I am 100% putting it public, every little bit of it. Because she was like, and then he threw the lamp at me and da 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 da. She explains it. So it's like, it's perfect for sharing. But she went over to the phone and called 9 and he ripped it out of the wall. And then
Oh,
he took the fucking wire and my mom said, go call the police. Go call the police. I said, how? And she goes, next door. I found out later in life that this guy was a full-on um if you understand.
yes,
Like
I do.
100% was. And so, but this man was a fucking human in that point. So I run over to his house, had never done this, never even went out my front door without my mom at that point. Ran out the house, ran to the next door, and I said, my mom's being killed by my dad. Call 911.
Yeah.
So we go back to the house with the guy, and the guy's like, get the fuck out the house. He had the cord wrapped around her neck probably 50 times, was trying to kill her right there. And I think the police showed up right away and he was arrested. Or if my memory's wrong, which is why I got to go fucking find the police reports, he went on his motorcycle and left. It's either one of the two, but he disappeared and he was gone for a hot minute. And then at that point, he didn't get visitation anymore after that.
Well,
So then
yeah.
Valentine's Day
I would
shows
hope
up.
so.
Yeah, motherfucker. God damn.
Literally.
So then,
Like, get out of here.
yeah, my mom was just like a battered woman at the finest at that point. I can promise you. And
She was just trying to
she was
survive.
just beaten. She was just beaten by that point, to the point that like she felt like she had a spawn with my brother at that point. And that's not any hate to him. That's just
No,
how bad
it's
it was.
just,
He
it was
felt
so bad.
trapped. And
You
I
can't.
did not admit I was being abused until a little bit after what I'm going to explain, which is just hardcore, that as a child sometimes you just don't know. You just don't realize it's not okay. I don't know how else to put that. So I my mother, Valentine's Day happens and we go Valentine's Day, even in a church situation, is about that. So I remember we were on our way to church for a Valentine's Day special thing. Maybe it fell on a Sunday or something. I have no idea, but I remember we were dressed up for church. I remember my mom's vehicle in the driveway warming up and her saying, "Okay, Rachel, go turn off the lights, pull all the doors." Like I remember I would do that. I'd pull the garage door, I'd pull the screen door and lock it, I'd pull my bedroom door, all the house doors. And so I'm like going to start to put to the garage door is the door that had it. I will go to the garage door and I turn it when I go to shut it. I don't remember why probably because it was one of those hard doors. You know what I'm saying? A garage door that
Yeah, you got
it's
to
got
do
a
the
bolt.
latch and it's got the
Yeah.
spring at the top and it's
Yeah.
a process.
Yeah. So I go and I do it and there's black dust that falls out of the doorknob. And I'm like, what the
Oh,
And it
no.
wasn't a little, it was a lot. I mean, like enough that it was weird. And I was like skipping. I remember I was in a good mood. I was skipping through the house to the next door, probably like your girls do.
Yes.
And I go to the front door because I'm like, I got to tell my mom this. What's going on with our door? And I go to the front door and there's also dust in that door, like on the inside of the compartment, not the outside, the inside. In the house
Okay.
side of the front door, there was also black dust. I go out to the car. I can hear the fucking engine going. It's a Mitsubishi Galant, a red Mitsubishi Galant. And I go to my mom's windows down and she says, "What's going on? Why aren't you come on? Let's go." And I'm like, "Mom, there's black dust coming out the door." And she turns off the engine, leaves the keys in the ignition. It's because she knows her husband. She walks into the fucking house, sees the dust on the floor at the front door. I remember that very clearly. And then goes straight. She says, "Where did you see the dust?" I said, "There's a bunch over here, Mom." I come over, show her at the garage door that would have been between these cinder blocks you see on the wall. Like kind of that wall was a separating wall.
Yes.
And
Probably.
I
Yes.
have to look for the
It's
I need
okay.
to look
No.
for the stuff. But
And
anyway,
how old were you again,
I
Rachel?
was
I'm so
5.
sorry. Okay, 5. All right.
It's probably 5.5 maybe.
Okay.
So we go to she goes straight to the phone that had been replaced, thank fucking God.
Right.
And she calls 911. And there is a particular sheriff that I'll give more information on in a later time to show pictures and whatnot. He's passed away now, but he was an Asian gentleman that was very well known and respected in the community. And he was like multi-skilled. So I remember
This
the
was in
bomb squad
the.
came out
I'm
because,
sorry.
go ahead.
My volume's going up, so I'm just trying to figure that out. But
No
I
problem.
apologize. Was it the Asian or
Yeah, it's an Asian sheriff, but I don't remember his freaking name. It's so interesting because he was
Metairie.
in Metairie, yes.
Okay.
Sheriff,
Keep going and maybe
chief
I can
sheriff
figure.
something. Anyway, so my mom calls the police. The police come out and they're like, "We need to have this tested to see if it's dynamite. Because if your husband has dynamite, then that could be what it is." When they took a screwdriver and removed the doorknob, they found a fuse in every single doorknob of the house. And underneath the playhouse of my backyard, where I told you guys I love so much, he had
Yes.
dug about 4 feet down and put an ice chest full of money and explosive devices all the way into
Wow.
the house.
Damn.
And it was enough
I
to blow up the
oof.
entire neighborhood off the map. So there is newspaper, there is a police report. I
His
know there
name
also
is
is.
Harry Lee, the sheriff.
That's
He-
him. Yes.
Yeah.
Harry Lee came to my house, stood in the front of that front door, as you can see on the screen, and said, "This is a dangerous man."
Yes.
Okay. And he got off all charges. My father got off. How?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know. He is connected with the police department to this day right now. So that says some shit I'll explain on another episode.
Man, Harry's seem to be very tricky.
Yeah, tricky.
Tricky Harry.
So that was when my mom decided, fuck this, we're disappearing. I got the flu. Let me show you guys this picture I was referencing before. I got the flu. We're sitting on this couch. My grandparents weren't here. This is a nighttime. My mom's crying. My mom's afraid. My brother, I believe, had been born at this point, and she just was done. It had snowed. We'll have to look into that. It had snowed in Louisiana, and I got pneumonia. I was vomiting on myself. It was horrible. I remember it felt like the Twilight Zone because she was asking me serious questions when I should have been in bed, you know? But she was
Right.
like very battered women at this point. And then we became a team. You know what I'm saying? I'm going too far ahead. I'm sorry. Let me go back.
Yeah, I was about to say back
Oh
up
my God.
to the
bathtub.
police in the
The
bathtub. Yeah.
bathtub and all that. Yeah. So the police come, like I said, all that shit. He didn't have any fucking rights to me anymore. But my grandmother, the one that I love so much, unfortunately, manipulative as she is, I'm going to bring it on the screen just for facts. So my father's mother, she decided to help her son. She's going to record me on a tape deck thing. You could record, audio in the room. Me saying my daddy never did anything, he never touched me, never did anything, because I'm about to tell that story. So my mom had been going to a religious preschool, I think, or kindergarten. Well, how old would it be? Kindergarten, probably, if I was 5. And
Well, no, you were early or you were
yeah, it's
later,
October,
so it's
baby.
probably pre-K
I
or
guess so. And I would, yeah,
kindergarten.
maybe. So I remember, um, I'm sorry, I'm blanking out.
It's
PTSD,
okay.
full effect for the day.
We're talking about the your mom was trying to get you to record something and
Okay, so
tell.
my grandmother was trying to get me to record something, and I was God, it's so important what I just forgot. Jesus
No, you
Christ.
said that you were trying to talk about how you're
Okay, I remember. Here we go. So I was showing signs of trauma in school. I didn't
Mhm.
write Rachel on my page anymore. I started writing in my own language because, you're a kid, you can't spell. I wrote Ariel, Little Mermaid's name, Ariel. I
Right.
wrote it on my page over and over and over to the point it got weird. And my teacher had a conference with my mother and was like, she's saying her name's Ariel. And I would say, don't call me Rachel. My name's Ariel. And that's okay for a kid, but after like months, that's not okay. So
You're trying to
probably had to be,
disassociate
I
with.
did. I
Right.
didn't even know that's what it was. So, and anyway, so I initially um just showed that sign. There wasn't any things at home. I didn't ask for help. I didn't tell anybody anything was going on. I didn't know what to do though, because my father, every time he put me in the bathtub, would get in with me and tell me to do things to myself and him at
Mm.
5. Okay.
Mm. Mhm.
And I remember why I had to say something was when my mom said, "Why are you calling yourself Ariel?" When she did it so perfectly, like set up. I liked chicken nuggets back in the past, guys, and we went to McDonald's and she got me a meal and we went back home. TV was never in our bedroom. Like that wasn't a thing in our house. We had one just in the living room, okay? And I remember the bed, it just me and my little brother was not born, I think, at this point. Or even conceived maybe at this point. That's probably why I was sleeping in the bed with her, because she didn't trust anything anymore, because he was breaking into the house. He probably would have kidnapped me right out my bed. That's probably what she was thinking. So um he had been doing it a long time. And then I remember one incident where I guess I just spoke up for myself and I said, "Stop." And he says, "You don't tell me to stop." And I remember it very clearly. And that freaked me out. It was like I was afraid. And then he continued to do what he would do. And I don't know anything other than what I can remember. So even the doctors don't know how much he did or how long. We just know that those B12 shots that were in the refrigerator, his fun game when I was alone in the house was to turn all the lights off, take the B12 shots. We don't know what they were or what they were. He says they were B12. That's what the fucking rumor is, but I don't believe that. Um, and chase me around the house and say, "I'm the boogeyman. I'm going to get you." I had real, and it was my father, not like some weird fucking movie, my father. So in the bathtub and in the house at night, I was tortured regularly. That's the only thing I can remember in a detail of more than one night. Okay. And when he would physically spank me, he would beat me. It wasn't a little. It was like, I'm loving this. It wasn't normal. So I only needed a few spankings in my life. I conformed real fucking quick. And I'm sure that probably what he did manipulating me was to tell me, "I'll spank you if you don't do what I say." I'm pretty sure that probably is what was said. So, um, I very early on really only felt safe with my mother and my grandmother. But the sad part is my grandmother only, it's literally been said in our family, your father is the apple of your grandmother's eye. He can do no wrong. It's a fact, okay? And she's told everybody as long as she lived and found out about all this that my mother put that in my head. That's not what happened. I have been trying to stand up for myself from the beginning. My mom's mom believed my father that my mother might have tried to convince me. So you know how that was a thing in the 90s where moms would say, "Your father touched you." That's not what happened. I asked for help. And then I went to a therapist and they did all the things you do in the early 90s. Here's the doll, what happened, da 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 da.
Oh,
Had a physical exam. They
it was
couldn't prove
very
it was
odd.
physical. So we don't know 100% how much he did, which is hard for me to share. Trigger warning. But I just remember what I remember of his physically with his hands doing things and him expecting me to touch him, which is disgusting. It's disgusting beyond belief. And by the end of this fucking podcast, you guys will understand why I am me and why I've chosen to disassociate with some family members and whatnot, because you wouldn't want that for your children or anybody else
Absolutely not.
in any way.
I get maybe to get off of a heavy topic, I even am just with neighbors, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Uh
You have to be.
Over awareness is not over hovering,
No.
you know. It's just
So
Well,
the
as
system was
we're
broken.
sort
I'm
of
sorry if
talking
that's a
about
bit
right now,
triggering to
like
you guys.
if you
It's disgusting.
don't, if no one watches their neighbors and you're not aware of what's going on, no one would ever know that
Mhm.
shit like what was happening in your house
Yep.
was going
It
on.
looked so good from the outside. The lawn was fucking
Exactly.
done. We had
It's one of those
everything. Yeah.
like a snake in sheep's clothing. Like, oh
One
look, that's
billion
just a
percent.
happy little house, and then in
I mean, look at the
reality,
cars they had. This is not a joke. My mom's the one in the middle. My father's the one to the right. You see how short he was? See how he could lift her off the ground? And she was tiny. um, no,
Yeah.
it's the best way to put it, C Fowles. Her fun times, let me describe it to you guys, was to go to a plantation and look at old history. Her fun
Oh,
times is to go
yeah.
to a thrift shop and pick out something nobody else would think was beautiful. That was 100% her. So, and she loved animals. Like my mom was so good with cats and dogs and random shit. They would talk to her. I mean, we tried to have a bird mate with another bird, and I don't know if you guys know this, but birds can even mate with you, like to try to like pump your hand and shit. That would
oh
happen.
yeah,
They loved her. They loved my mom. Like when my mom passed away 24 hours later, somehow our screen door got opened and all the birds escaped. Tell me that's not fucking maybe my mother's spirit. I don't know. But the cage was tipped over and the door was wide
Uh,
open when I came home from the
do you
hospital. Not playing, guys.
do you feel like she identified with a certain animal? Does she have a spirit animal or
A butterfly.
butterfly?
100%. She called herself a gypsy butterfly.
That's I remember the gypsy, I didn't remember the
Well,
butterfly.
because she always would get like this weird mood, like not like a crackhead who couldn't pay their bills, but like someone who's
Manic, a
like
little
I gotta
manic.
move. I don't know. We gotta
Yeah,
move.
we
There's
gotta go,
something
we
out
gotta go.
there.
Like,
right. Nomadic,
Yeah,
Sheriff from Mermaid.
nomadic.
a
Like
hundred
you can't
percent.
stay
I
in one
loved
spot
it.
for too long.
Do you understand? I can pack a whole house in fucking 14 hours. Less than that. I can do it. I am so good at moving. It's crazy. We've never, ever, ever skimped out on a bill except a restaurant in Texas. She thought that was fucking fun. She did it like Loathing in Las Vegas style when she was like full on breast cancer at one point. We went to Pizza Hut. She's like, order everything you want. And she's like, we're gonna go to the bathroom. All right, we're leaving. I was like, what the fuck? And that happened. Okay. She was like wild. Like she's like, I'm a schemer. I'm like, and I never knew that was a bad thing. But my mom was like writing back bad checks and stuff at the end of her life because she didn't give a fuck anymore. Like she'd been perfect little me all her whole life. So she got away from my father by doing two things. She let that person, that family know that I told you guys about that I was close with, the P family, let them know that we were going to disappear in the middle of the night. But how did she come up with that plan? Let me bring this back up. I'm sorry to go in a circle. It's hard to explain. This house had so much shit.
Well,
So we're
that's
sitting at
part.
that table. I'm sick off my ass with pneumonia. I'm vomiting more and more and more. I remember it so clearly. And there was a map underneath that glass table you see right there, and it was just a world map. Like they did traveling and camping and stuff like that in Tennessee a lot, and like I remember bears and raccoons. I fucking love camping because I grew up on it, and like getting dirty was nothing. Like that's when I was not, when we were out of Louisiana, we could be like just have fun with life, and nature and stuff. But we were like a very strict Christian family. We didn't listen to secular music. Like I remember listening to like Twyla Paris and Amy Grant and DC Talk and shit growing up straight up. Like I didn't get it until I was 13. Like who even Eric Clapton was or any of that shit. It was terrible. I'm mad about that still. But we were sitting at this table, chairs and table, me and my mom, and she is holding me in a blanket as I'm like fucking shivering and sweating and crying because I don't feel well. And she pulls up the map because she's like, we're not staying here anymore. We're fucking in her brain as a mother. She's like, we're leaving. I don't know how, but we're leaving. Pulls out the map. It's the whole United States. And she says, Rachel, close your eyes and she had me point. And we pointed straight to Denver. It was Lakewood, Colorado that I pointed to. And
That's like
24
share.
hours later, my mom booked a flight to Denver, Colorado, and found a job as a paralegal. And not paralegal, a bookkeeper in one of the biggest fucking best. She did her research. Like, it was like call around in the yellow pages and ask how to get operator, I need such and such number kind of shit. It wasn't like you could fucking go Google search that shit. I don't know how my
Oh
mom
no, you
did it.
had to work to get where a
So
number.
she called around, and she worked as a paralegal, not a paralegal, a bookkeeper in New Orleans off of Poydras Street. So if you know that kind of uppity, she had good connections. She worked for the Shale Oil Company, and I have a lot of pictures of that I will share on my Instagram. So she worked in good jobs, very good jobs, after and before she was even with my father. So after the church situation happened, I think she left the church after she divorced or went for the divorce for my father, because they did not accept it. They thought she was horrible. They ostracized my mom. They made her feel like she had been making him look like a bad guy and all this stuff. It was horrible because she had been nothing but fucking there for them. Okay. And there was a lot of major problems that happened with the church, which we'll talk about in another episode, because I'm sure as fuck that it would be a great one. I love to talk about the corruption. So um so I point on the map where we're going. She lines up a job within 24 hours of that incident. Not even joking, which I was staying with my grandma. I remember still even being sick. Like, she had went under my grandma's nose and was like, I'm going to be out of town. I have somewhere I have to go. It's, da, da, da. And, or I might have even been staying with the friend's family. I think that's what it was. Like, nobody knew her plans. That's what it was, 100%. So the P family I was talking about, and all their 5 kids. Like, I almost was like a sister to their family, okay? And their behaviors and how they handled church and everything is exactly how my mom wanted me. Like, I continue to pray at night. I continue to fucking pray at dinner table, everything. And my grandmother wasn't like that. So I bet you $1 billion that's where I was. But she finds a place, she gets a job, she decides we need an apartment too, so she lines that up. And so I don't know if she borrowed money, it's possible, who knows. My mom wasn't very good at saving money, I'll give that as truth, but she knew what she was doing, got enough money at least to put a deposit on an apartment. And then she asked her cousin, who is my second cousin, Tammy, which I might have her on a podcast in the future. She's wanted to do it, and she's very pro cannabis too. But she was like 17 at the time, almost 18, and she had never left Louisiana in her life. So she had knew what my mom was going through, and my mom was kind of a mentor to her because Aunt Sissy was a mentor to Tammy, my cousin. And so she was like, you're gonna leave? And she's like, yeah. So I'm gonna sell everything in the house. We're gonna have a garage sell everything, and then we're just leaving. So if you want to come, you would be really helpful to help with the new baby, my little brother. And I mean, you would be having basically a nanny job. You would never have to work. I'd have a good job. We'd be fine. She takes her up on her offer, and we had a Mitsubishi Galant. So she took the Mitsubishi Galant, Tammy did, and took me and all the breakables. Like, I'm talking about weird things, like a vacuum cleaner was in the back seat, a bunch of like picture frames and stuff. Like, I guess decorations were in the car that we drove. The rest was a closet size, if you can imagine. It's exactly what it is, a closet size box that you put like a refrigerator in. She filled it all the way up with the stuff from the house that we wanted to keep. And then in the newspaper, she said early morning. I'm sure it exists out there. I can find the newspaper clipping of it, but she put it in the newspaper as if my grandma wasn't going to figure it out. She never did. My father never did. Nobody got it. But that morning I can remember them banging on the garage door to get in. It was like that for fucking. Do you remember that, Brennan, in Metairie? Like, you would have crazy
Yes.
things.
Yes.
Crazy, like psychos. They wanted that shit.
It was very it was
wasn't
like
normal.
it was kind of like
It was like Kmart
a
at Christmas.
well
Straight up. Blue light
But
special
with like psychopaths.
psychopaths. They banged on the fucking garage and we weren't even, it was like 3 hours before it supposed to start. And so my mother, I told you guys that I had everything, right? I had everything. Now I'm not materialistic. Let me tell you why. Because I had to not be at a fucking age that traumatized me. Every single Barbie I had, every single bike, everything I owned, even my own clothes, was put in the front yard. The day it was done right in front of me. I was never warned it was going to happen. I didn't know. I knew we were moving, but I wasn't told to go through my stuff. No, I was not. My room was normal. So the day that it happened, all I heard was bang, 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 bang. And then it said, grab your Barbies, Rachel, grab your stuff. That's what happened. So I bring it out and there are people going through my shit right in front of me. Like I handed it out. Okay. Bins of it. Cause kids have bins. So I'm pulling
Right.
my think out, thinking like I've been through a lot of therapy because of what I'm sharing with you guys. It's amazing I can even tell the story without crying. But
You're doing a really good job, and
Yeah.
it's very
um
powerful.
it's
And it's
hardcore.
good to, like I think all of us have said at this point, it's good to talk about it. It's good
Right.
to, so that if someone else hears this, they can be like, oh, like,
Holy
I'm
shit.
not alone
No.
in,
And you're
you
in a
know,
safe place with people
Yes.
you trust.
This is why it's not live, but it will be.
Right.
And I'll be in the premiere. Don't worry, guys. But so my friend's friend who was aware that this was going to happen showed up about an hour into it. Okay. So I'd already seen all my Barbies and their clothes be sold. That's what it was. My mother made an agreement with me. I'll let you keep the Barbie clothes, but you have to sell the Barbies. And I got to keep the clothes. That was so hardcore. I still have most of it, which is weird. Okay. But it's not for value of money. I thought I was going to have a little girl one day, honestly. So I did the things women do. But yeah, I got to keep a Ziploc bag full of all the clothes so that it was like such a weird moment when I would put them on new Barbies. I was emotional for a long time. And then my Barbie house, like we're talking, we're girls. The Barbie house got picked up by the friend. I'll just call her by her name. She deserves a respect. Hannah was the I'm going to be emotional. Sorry.
No, you have to have feelings, or you're
I was
real.
riding my bike away from that fucking garage sale, up and down the street, up and down the street. And I already knew I had to let go. She said, "You're not going to talk like just like we do. You behave, you are the kid you're supposed to be." And I was very much abused by that point. So I just did what the fuck was told. So I'm riding my bike up and down the thing, and my mom comes to the end of the sidewalk and points to me and does the little "come here" sign. And she says, "Hannah's taking your bike, and Hannah's also going to take your Barbie house." And I was so freaked out. I couldn't believe it. I was so freaked out. I was like, how does this happen? Like, why the fuck does this happen? The reason it had happened was they knew that I needed it back one day.
Yeah. There are.
So the bike was not given back to me. But when I was about 30 years old, I got the Barbie house back. It's so crazy because they held it the whole time. So we went into hiding from my father with my cousin Tammy, who, I mean, all that my mom left in that garage was his Harley and a box of my art. And he gave the box of art to my fucking grandmother, and he didn't give a fuck. He never even tried to look for us, nothing. We went to Denver. We lived in Lakewood, Colorado for about 3 years. And Tammy only lived with us for a month. She went in the middle of the night, jumped out the window, not like a 2-floor. I'm saying just a single floor, jumped out the window and got a bus and went back home to New Orleans. But we on the way, and I want to say this because it's part of a story in the future, more PTSD. When we had that vacuum cleaner in the back seat and all the stuff or whatever, my mom my mom's car got a flat in the middle of Texas. I fucking hate Texas for so many reasons.
I
And
agree.
and it was in the middle of where you can imagine death happening just for standing there. Okay. So it was not a good place in Texas to
Well,
break
that's
down.
not
And
very elaborate. There's so
it's like
many.
horror movie on horror movie for
Oh,
real.
okay. No
So,
Country for Old Men type
yep.
deal.
And I remember her taking all the stuff out of the back of the trunk to pull the fucking spare out to do the thing. And I remember standing there, like leaning on the vacuum cleaner outside the car in the hotness and being like, we're going to die. We're just going to die here. Like I'm panicking, leaning on a vacuum cleaner. And I was 6 years old, like not even that, maybe. I think I was 5.5. I made 6 in Colorado. So I was probably right before 6 years old. Anyway, so Tammy, there's no cell phones. There's none of that. Like my mom's on a fucking airplane with, I'm not making this up. And I'm sorry, Fowles, you're a man in the crew, but here it comes with 4 pounds of milk, if not more. She had frozen breast milk that she took on the plane. That was her carry on breast milk. She, she knew she was going to be working a fucking lot. So she
Yeah,
had
do what you
been
gotta
in
do, man. I
freezing
respect
it.
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
that wasn't even a thing back then. So
My
it was
mom was
like thinking
so
ahead.
amazing. And that was a big thing. If my mom was here, I'm trying to tell her side how she told me and how she would say it today. Facts, okay? And she was like, it might have even been like 10 pounds of milk. I don't know. It was a lot. And they took it and they didn't charge her for more. I remember that part. It was just this whole thing of like
It's
a
not.
newborn baby on a
Yeah.
flight
It,
in like never even sure if you're about to be found. Like, are we moving for no reason? Are we about to all be killed? All of that was going through my mom's
did she
mind.
keep it very calm though? Like nothing was.
She was ready to move us to Denver and to change my name and to go into hiding. We were ready to do that. We didn't change my name. We went into hiding. She had worked for attorneys that helped her write letters to protect herself, to let the schools know that if anybody by the name of anybody of these people ask, call, anything, she can't go anywhere. Okay. So I was in hiding for 5 years in Denver, Colorado. I was there for 3 years. My mom got, okay. So when I was 6 years old, we're talking the same fucking year that I moved to Denver. They tested my mom's blood because she got back in touch with a childhood sweetheart. His name is Henry. She loved him. It was her first love. And I get emotional seeing this because I don't feel like it was a bad situation, but man, it was fucked up by the end. So he was Creole. He was from the West Bank. His family, it wasn't, I mean, it's an Italian girl getting with a French, and I don't know what his other culture was. I want to say
Oh, it was just kind of like
Filipino.
you don't
Filipino. That
you
was
don't
the fucking,
mix.
yeah,
Okay.
and in Louisiana that was forbidden in general. And even in the 90s it was not the best. So I can tell all of you listeners that I am not racist in any way because I never saw my stepdad as anybody else. I never even knew that was a thing until I was like 25 and in California. I was like, holy shit, the interracial is a bad thing? Wow. Fucking crazy. That's some shit right there. So,
Yeah,
and I
that's
mean, he definitely looked different. Like, take the fucking family pictures in now. Like,
yeah,
that
that
was
was the
our,
thing. We didn't
we
mix.
were this like white family with it was weird for some people to treat us differently. And he worked for pizza companies and stuff like that. Well, they had this whole love affair right after she escaped. And that's the truth. We escaped. Louisiana, nobody knew where we were. Not, I'm saying not my friends. She didn't call her mother. Nothing. Nobody knew where we were. We just said we were
Well,
leaving. So
right, because you don't
Tammy,
want people to
no,
slip up and say something.
or he
Like,
could kill them. Like I'm being honest, people. He's not stable
Yeah.
today. He wasn't stable back then. It's just gotten worse. So, um, Tammy kept her mouth shut, and as far as they were concerned, she had like met a guy, and they thought that like she just came back. No, she didn't even speak about anything. Okay, nobody knew. And my mother calls. I'm sorry. My mother starts this love affair with Henry, and we go back to Louisiana one period of time between those 5 years, and we're in hiding there. Okay, take that in. It's hardcore
Oh, I
to
know how
go
that
back
is
to a
to
city.
hide,
You,
to be in the city
oh yeah,
and keep
oh
your
yeah,
kids calm.
just to I literally can't even explain it to you. I almost like I'm glad I didn't have a fake name or anything, but it was talked about. It was talked about a lot. It was a thing. I used to feel comfortable. This is so hard for me to share with you guys because it doesn't make a lot of sense unless you went through it. But do you guys know the Lamb Chap lady?
Oh, yeah.
This is
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
I
song
think
that
so,
okay,
yeah.
that I know it's terrible, but here we go. So my grandma, my mama, the one I was close with, I thought she looked like her. If she usually was
You're
blonde. She
right,
never.
she does.
So when I used to see that show, I would cry and I'd say, I miss you, mama. I miss you, mama, all the time. So it was really difficult growing up not having her around because she did treat me good, even though she manipulated me. That was the only thing she did wrong at that point. Okay. To be like really respectful to it. So lamb chops is how I felt comfortable and didn't lose my fucking mind. I didn't have any therapy. In Louisiana other than to confirm I was abused. But when I got to Colorado, she was really concerned that I was not gonna that I had problems with men. I couldn't hug men, I couldn't be around men alone. I was not comfortable. So my mom put me in therapy, family therapy with my new stepdad, Henry, which they got married. Like I said, they snuck back to New Orleans and the whole family got involved because people in Louisiana don't leave the state. A lot of people don't. So if you have a wedding, you kind of have to bring it there. It's a fact. Do you
Oh,
feel that
that's
way,
true.
Brennan?
Oh, yeah, that was I was, dismantled from my family
Right.
by not, going home.
Right. And
Uh,
we had her wedding, the second one, which I'll find pictures because they're absolutely stunning and they just show my mom's class. Like she had a whole white hat wedding. Everybody had to wear hats. Everybody had to be in like the lace and all. And she had it
right,
on the natchez. And we booked out the natchez. And so nobody was allowed on there. We were safe because we
right.
did it that way. It was crazy. And like
Oh, that's
I,
crazy you
I,
say
I
those
don't
white hats.
Yep, white hats, and she had the sunset,
Yeah.
and it was a beautiful wedding, and they were happy. And he did treat me respectfully at the beginning. He really was trying to be there for the beginning. But immediately
Yeah.
when I turned to a teenager, he started treating me inappropriately. I do not know how else to say that. There was
Uh,
touching, at least on my chest, that made her
uh-huh.
kick his ass out. So that was,
Well,
and it was like tickling that wasn't normal.
and
Right.
so at this
So
point, your brother was around,
my
right?
brother was around. I don't have a
Okay.
lot of pictures on this one, but I will share that he looks identical to my
Well,
son.
no,
I'll say that.
I'm just saying he was
Yeah,
young.
this was okay. So at this point, this is the age we're talking about. This is me
Oh,
at
yeah, big,
6.
big,
Maybe
yeah.
no, I'm more like 7 at this point. I'm already
Uh,
no, hold on, let me
I
think.
think you're
I
like
was
9.
8. I was 8 at this point because I was on treatment called interferon to get rid of hepatitis C.
Mm,
I was diagnosed with hepatitis C on that blood test that the whole family got at a regular doctor test. My mom got a blood test to get married, right?
right.
And then she said, "Well, let's just get everybody else." I don't know why, but I remember that was a thing. And then I think I was
Well,
just a normal primary visit that we all went together. And they did blood work and found hepatitis C active in me and active in my mom and not active in my brother, which was
so that
crazy.
means, well, that they did those blood tests because HIV and
Yep.
AIDS was a
Yep.
thing. So you had to
Yep.
test to make sure you
Yes.
didn't have it and or you
Yes.
weren't spreading it to others when you got
Correct.
married. I remember
Yep.
the whole thing.
That's the thing. So at this point, this is kind of this is they're married, right? My little brother's much younger here. This is at the second house we lived in Denver. This is how my mom was. Do you see this clean kitchen? Do you see this perfect atmosphere? We're hanging out with mom. She was sick. Um,
Oh, and he was a baby.
and he was a baby. And
Big
at
baby
this point, I was having home health people come to my house
in home
and
hospice,
do no, not hospice, but come to my
in
house
home
and do
health
my
care.
blood work for all of the medications I was on because I was giving myself shots in first grade in my legs 3 times a week by myself, like with this shooting gun thing. You had to put the needle in it and it would
Oh,
shoot it.
yeah. It's,
And then
Oh
I
yeah.
gave
yeah.
up on that thing and I would just do it myself. I'd pull my fat up and I would do it. And it would make me so sick. I lost all my hair. I was in first grade. So there's lots of pictures of me with like short ass hair because my mom had to share her hair too. We were on the same medication. She was sick just like me. Interferon makes you sick like It's like a chemo, but it
Yeah, it's
it
not
knocks you out.
bad,
And
but
so I used to in the first grade, and this means a lot that you guys hear me out. The amount that I can do on the internet is quite impressive to even me, because I was considered learning disabled by officially third grade, because I didn't get any of my phonics because I was either at home sick, throwing up, too sick to wake up, just the recovery of that medication for the year that I was on it. I relapsed after that, and but I was laying on the bathroom floor just to have rest during class. Like as a first grader, I didn't need anybody's fucking help. I just would go, I need to go to the bathroom, and then I would take my coat off. I would lay it on the ground and I would sleep on the floor. And sorry guys. One of the fucking teachers
okay. In your class?
one of the fucking teachers came in and realized what had been happening. They thought I had been a kid that just didn't want to be engaged. They didn't know I was sick. And I remember them having a meeting with my mom, and them then being informed what I needed. And they would give me, it's just stupid, but I was in pain a lot. So they give me an ibuprofen at lunchtime every single day, just like Heather's situation. Like, you just doing what you're told. So I would have the ibuprofen, then I was allowed to get in the lunch line every single day from basically ages 7 till like the end of being 8, because by 9 we moved away from Denver because it got really weird. Like, the hospitals were great, everybody was great, she loved her job, but my mom was actively sick and quite literally just was at the end of her rope with like how bad Denver got in the 90s was dangerous. I remember going to the mall with her. We were going to Taco Bell, and there was a shooting at the fucking wall. I mean, this is the 90s and it was a thing. This is way before
It's way before mass shootings,
it was
way
way before
before all
the
that.
Columbine or any of that,
Yeah.
guys. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
talking 5 or 6 years before it, and maybe even more. And so my mom was just done, and you got to understand there was starting to be graffiti all over Denver. So on the sign that would go like right outside of Lakewood near Boulder, if you guys know the area, there's a big like billboard that's like it'll say the Eisenhower Tunnel and all this other shit that you can go this direction. And it was spray painted across the front of it, said, "Welcome to Cali, Colorado." Literally in the 90s. So my mom was like, fuck, we got to get out of here. Now, she wasn't a cannabis user or any of that at this point. She was just a straight Jesus freak. Okay. Like, DC talked straight up Jesus freak. And we were very involved with all the events, and like all my friends were only Christians and all that shit. And so she was married. Their marriage was great at that point, but she was sick with the interferon as well, and it made it impossible for her to work. So he took over, the stepdad, financially doing everything. And he worked for the Coors Light Center down in Denver, which was a great job to have because you just got benefits and taken care of and all that. And hang on one second. I have to blow my nose. Hold on one second.
You're okay. Do what you got to do.
Yeah, it brings a whole new perspective, or maybe different perspective to the different types.
Probably is alarming to people that Miss Chronic Chronicles made it through, I'm sure, at this point already.
No,
But
no.
yeah.
That's
No,
Yeah.
if anything, it shows why you're in the situation you are and why you kind of have that, like, fuck it, here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it attitude.
Yeah, I do, very much so. I use the word fuck a lot because it helps lower the stress. 100%.
I totally
Whatever
get
you
that.
got to do, man.
Yeah, I hear you. So, like I said, my mom decided, I don't know how we ended up in this area. I just remember that he worked for Swan's food delivery. That's what my stepdad ended up getting a job out here, and that is
Oh,
a big
I
deal
remember
in the
that. That was
whole
a big
area.
deal in the 90s.
Yeah, like those foods
Yeah,
were
that was the
great. So
shit.
It was
So were the
expensive
ice
though.
cream. Like, Jesus, it was so good. And they still exist. I've looked into it, but it's
It,
outrageous to get it here now. I don't know why.
it was outrageous then though. It was
Well,
very
we had
expensive.
everything. We got to get
Right.
free stuff too. It was
Yes.
insane. That's probably why we loved it. But anyway, so my mother, I mean, and I want to make it clear, guys, I was not a child that had food stamps. My mother got WIC, but that's it. She was not, we went to food banks way later in our life. Okay. Just so you guys have context, my mom was
Was not going
just,
to take from anybody.
she didn't like to ask for help. It was a
Yep.
big problem. I have the same problem. So
It's,
big, same problem.
it's
It's
not a
really bad.
problem. It's a learning
Woo!
curve. You got to
I
trust the
learned
right people.
hustle versus like my mom wouldn't have done half the shit that I've done. Like she would have just
Yeah.
depression set in a lot for her.
Yeah, but
So
you can have the hustle and flow. You know,
I
you
think
find sometimes you find the flow.
I think my father's weirdness did help like bring the I don't give a fuck attitude, but I've always been calculated. I didn't have him as a mirror to be him. So that's a good thing. Like he wasn't around to be like, "Well, dad said." I never ever was like that. Ever. I remember him smoking in my face one time, blowing the smoke in my face and me going, "I wish you wouldn't smoke, dad." And he slapped me across the face. I was like 5. Like he backhanded me hard.
Do you think that your mother was very flow? Of course, she was
Yeah.
just wanted to go, but you know, she
She wanted
had to
to move to
hustle. She had
California.
to.
She
It
told
was
She told me that before anything ever went bad with my father, she wanted to move to Colorado or California in a rural area and start an actual vegetable farm. And he didn't want to do that. And I remember us going on in drives, looking at property in Florida and other places like that. I can remember him being like, "I don't think it's it." Like, so they were trying to get out of the lifestyle they were in, but he didn't. He loved his fuckery. I don't know how else to put that. Like, he loved
oh,
Right.
it. So
they had a
totally different
commingling
lives. Yeah.
commingling life. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the stepdad was totally different. He was passive. He didn't know how to communicate. He would stutter when he got upset. My mom was too aggressive for
Oh,
him. He would stutter and
yeah.
then yell
I
in
know
a
how that
whole
is.
Creole way.
Yeah.
He wouldn't use bad words. He would like stomp his hand on the counter or walk out and cry.
The
Like I know that's
movements were the
fucked up,
bad
boy.
words. The movements were the bad words. What
Yeah,
he
and
was
then he
doing.
learned how to use words against my mom, which you
Oh
guys can have
man.
your opinions. It's just the story. It's the facts. The reason I don't have contact with him is what I'm about to share, okay? So when my mom got breast cancer about 2 years into us living in Silk, Colorado, which is a beautiful place, I will do a video on all of the history of that because it's so worth it. In fact, actually, I'll bring it up and share it out on my community post today that I took a VHS where we were driving in the town and my stepdad was in the car with us and she used to record. Like she was a vlogger without knowing it. There is so much shit that she talked into a camera. I'm going to share it all. I already have the technology to do it. I've just been trying to find a way to do it, make it make sense. But she was like, she would take videos on a VHS, the big heavy one. I still have it. I actually mentioned it on your show the other day, C-Files, the VHS, like it was the only way I could watch
Oh,
TV for a
right.
long time. Yeah, but we still have everything. And anyway, she showed Silk, Colorado before it was like what it is today. And she was like, "This is our house and this is where we're gonna live before we lived in a tent." Like she was being silly. That's how my mom was. Just all the time. Would make jokes about real fucked up situations.
Make light of
Yeah.
the fuckery pretty much.
Right. Like the shoebox thing.
I
That just
do the
shows.
same thing. Humor is my
Yeah.
coping mechanism. Shit
100%.
gets fucked up, and I just make a joke out of it.
Right. Like your ink comment that you made is so eloquent. I can't even deny. Like fuck. I'm still vibing off of that from yesterday or the day before. Yeah. So Colorado in the early days for me and Denver was like very scary. I remember okay, so let me just be really really blunt. Trigger warning. The medications I was on caused a depression I can't describe. I've never had that kind of depression again where you don't give a fuck. That you could jump off a building and have zero fucks still.
Yeah.
Okay? It
Yes.
did that to me. It made me very, very want to unalive the whole time was on it. And I was in first grade. I didn't even understand those feelings. I had been sexually abused. I had been mentally abused. I had been physically abused. But when it came to the trauma of the illness that I had and why I had it, and nobody, I was literally told in the children's hospital, I was sat down when they first diagnosed me. My mother was not around, and I can remember the tables, little plastic tables, different color chairs. And the doctor and a specialist came and sat me down with their little, like, they got on my level and they said, "We want to let you know that you're probably going to die early in your life and that you need to make sure that you don't make relationships your focus," which was weird to me to this day. I've repeated this
Wow,
in
what
many.
a statement.
They said relationships don't need to be your focus. You just need to learn how to live your life. That's what they said to a child. I don't think that's appropriate. My mom should have been there. It was weird. They were explaining to me my illness, that it was killing me and it was going to kill me slow, and that they didn't know if I was going to live 10 years, 5 years, a year, maybe 30 years. That's exactly how they described it. It is something that is very big in my PTSD. I hear it all the time. I hear the fucking words all the time for the now 30 years. And so then they said, "We're going to set you up with a nurse that's going to come to your house." And they have this thing called, what's the cream that you use that would not hurt?
Oh, the lidocaine?
It's not lidocaine. These were patches, like these little things you
Oh,
put
as
on.
for
It was a
the
gel,
Asper
like a numbing gel they would put on. And that shit was, it
lidocaine patches were a
wasn't
thing,
lidocaine though.
gel.
It's some kind of
Asper cream,
it was
there's so
clear,
many.
but it wasn't lidocaine. Anyway, this, the Emma gel. It's called Emma gel. Oh my God, I can't believe I remember that.
Well, that's
The
yeah, I don't know if
brand. That's the
that
thing, Emma gel. And my nurse, I remember my nurse would make it a game. It was so fun. She'd be like, "All right, we're gonna do our da-da-da," and she would come to and I was very sick, like very sick. If you can look at this picture, look at how badly I was struggling to smile. Like, it looks like I'm okay. My mom was, my little brother was chill, but I had a migraine headache in those pictures. Like, I can tell you point blank.
well, that's
This
what I
one as
was
well.
telling you when
Yeah.
I had the pictures of me. I said, you can see I'm smiling, but I'm
Yep.
not
Mm-mm.
happy.
I can remember that headache like it was yesterday. So, like I said, that particular, I will share more pictures on my Instagram about the places I'm referring to. But I remember this one building we lived in had like 4 stories. It was a apartment. Like, you could hear everything, and you could smell the fucking cigar in the hallway. Somebody had a cigar, and it was the horriblest, like, old man cigar. And that was the building that had, like, I was on the third floor, and I just wanted to just jump. And she caught me on the railing standing up, about to jump, like, begged me to get down. And I didn't jump. But I'm telling you guys, when I mean I never want that on anyone, that's some shit. To be that young, I was at least maybe 7. I must have been 8 by that point, 7 or 8. I was just sick. And maybe in between birthdays then. And I had a lot of friends at school, but I was an outcast because I didn't share my business. I kept my mouth shut. I didn't learn how to talk about shit until I was probably in my teens. Like, people didn't know my life. They thought I had like a perfect life. And we didn't have a lot of money because we didn't have that life anymore. So I loved thrift stores. I fell fucking in love early. I was like, I had a good eye. But remember, you guys, I'm spiritual. I learned spirituality through thrift stores when things would have attachments and I would feel them and get physically sick. Like, I don't know if you have experience.
Right.
Man, I
Yeah.
touched a violin in Denver and learned what the fuck an entity
See, I
is.
don't have
I had
the
visions.
feeling. I have visions, but not by feeling.
I saw his life, this motherfucker who owned this, and I had to walk out the store and threw up on the floor. I mean, on the front of the.
Right.
I literally threw up. It was, and my
No,
mom
I
was
know what
like,
you're saying. Like,
"Man,
if there's some sort of bad energy attached to whatever, say like a
hmm,
t-shirt or something like that,
yep."
and you're like, oh, that's cool, and you grab it, all of a sudden you're
Then the
like,
sun, you're
oh,
sick. Yeah.
yeah,
That was when I was awakened from spirituality. In fact, that night when I was so traumatized by it, because I wasn't sick at all. I wouldn't get home and get sick or anything. I said, Mom, we have to leave now. Let's get out of here. There's something wrong with this store. And she knew what I meant, but I never had recognized ever in my life that an object could hold an, some kind of energy. Okay. And I remember her being in the car, shaking her head and I remember it so clearly. Her being like, "You're gifted. You're gifted. You're just fucking gifted. I guess I just need to nurture your gifts." I mean, she's religious saying this shit out loud. Like, fuck. And I guess she must have felt it too, because she was like, we're gonna teach you the coping skills. That's how she would talk. That's how I talk. Like, we talk out loud, we fucking make it right.
Very
you
matter
know?
of factual,
Oh
or
yeah. Oh
two
yeah.
steps ahead and already doing it.
So she started explaining. Now, mind you, this is like probably 1992 or 3, maybe. No, probably 92. And I think indigo children was a word out there. She never told it to me, but she was saying that you were a gifted child and that I just have to,
Ah.
I just have to nurture your gifts. She was a reader, big time, but she didn't have books on that kind of stuff. She just was like, we didn't go to the library. That wasn't a thing for me. Like, that wasn't a thing. So she was probably talking to people and they were giving her fucking advice about a kid who could feel things, because I started fucking seeing shit regularly. There was shit at the end of my bed. There, it wasn't normal. And I'm describing it to you as like a Victorian woman in all black hanging out at the end of my bed with a veil just staring at me, and I would freak the fuck out. I called her a witch. I didn't know what the woman was.
The
That's what I
black
knew from
veiled, like a
it was
black
in
veiled
Denver
bride.
this happened. Yeah. Like a mesh fucking veil that just stood like she was watching. And there's nobody in my family I can associate that to. So I don't know. But, and I remember seeing auras a little bit at that age too. Like I could see sparkly things around people. And then if you touched me, I could see your grandma. Like I could see, I don't know how to explain it to you, but
That's
it's
like
like
some
connecting.
Jonah Hex type
I could
thing.
touch I could meet a friend. Actually, my friends used to fuck with me like this. I was like 8 years old and I'd be at a sleepover and they'd be like, if you hold Rachel's hand, she can tell you all about such and such. And I could see people's dogs in detail that they had that died. And so, I'm telling you, it was weird. So I felt weird early. I felt like a weird kid early because of that. And I was already very artistic. And because I had been in and out of hospitals most of my childhood, like when I mean, guys, that I didn't give a fuck about playing with Barbies and stuff like that, but I had everything in my past life living in Louisiana. So I kind of knew it was to have and to not have. And so I didn't miss those things. But what I didn't know that I was an artist. I just wanted to do. So, like, when we would go to Michael's, I would be happiest person in the world. Like, I don't know how to explain it to you guys, but I was a different kind of happy. Wait, what?
Nothing.
Oh, I
Nothing
thought
that
he
I can
said
think of.
something.
No.
So
Yeah, you're good.
she got me into beadworking like by the time I was 7 years old. And by the time we were 8 and we moved, so that whole year prior in Denver, I got into bead like earrings and all that shit. Like before wire work was a thing. I did wire work before there were books. I just loved working with the bending wire and like Indian beads and shit like that. And so we moved from Denver. We go to um the Western Slope, which is Silk, Colorado, as I said. I'm in like I'm in third grade at this point, almost fourth grade. And I don't give a fuck about school person. Let me just be real about that. I was doing everything I was supposed to do, but I hated being there by the age of probably 9, 10. Okay, 8, 9, 10, about then. My grandmother didn't know where we were this whole time, as I explained. So she claims, don't know if it's true, have no fucking idea, but it's a fucking story out there in my family that my mama, my father's mother, paid a private investigator to look for us and that they found us. And then when they found out, they decided to leave us alone. Is that true? Nobody knows. But this is my papa again. Let me just be really clear. He is the best thing in my fucking life. Okay. My papa was a bodybuilder. He was Mr. Louisiana like 5 times. His son has been it many times. He was a car dealership guy. He was potentially in the mob as well, because there's some stories my grandma can't make sense of. But he was completely part of all the good old boys in New Orleans for the strip clubs, and like he controlled stuff. So it's an odd situation because he had like his early years, and then he had when I was around, and he was like super grandpa. Now he had like probably 20 grandchildren, but I'm the only one he ever spent time with. I'm the only one he like took to his workout stuff and was like, "You're going to work out. I'm going to teach you how to do this." Like he was very much a big part of my life. And he knew my father was a piece of shit. So he was protecting me as much as he could. So like he told me later in life that, see, he's never told that story. That's just the thing. He's never told the story that he got a private investigator, but he said that he has told me that he knew my mom was doing the right thing by getting me out of Louisiana. He believed in that so much. And that when he found out the day that, this is a fact, if my grandma was alive, she'd want me to say that just for her ego. So I'm going to say it. The day that they found out that my whole house was empty, the Bissonnet house, my grandma ran out to the backyard and threw herself into the grass face forward and just like screamed and was kicking and tearing up the grass, screaming that my mom, she was going to get her like that, like, "I'm going to fucking get her." Da, da, da. And my grandpa stood at that porch and watched her be a fool. And my papa was not going to have any of it. Facts. So he smoked cannabis his whole life. And he was a workout kind of guy who would just always be smoking a joint after. He loved that little, after moment. And so when I was about in third grade, fourth grade, more fourth grade, I think. So we moved. She's dealing with the hepatitis. I'm dealing with the hepatitis. They We moved from Denver, Colorado, and moved to Silt, Colorado, and there are no more treatments for me because interferon didn't work. Well, there's no childhood adolescent treatment at that time, and you're just going to have to prepare to die. That's what I was told. Now, hepatitis is a very slow killer. So they were like, we'll keep an eye on your blood count and we'll see what's going on. We'll do biopsies and see what's going on. But even if they had third stage or second stage at that age, they would have done nothing. And I would have either had a transplant or like that's pretty much what they talked to me about most of my adolescence. It's like, just get ready for the transplant, Les. I
Right.
met
Yeah.
people that had it, the little pagers and stuff. I like had friends in the hospital who were like preparing me for it. And so thankfully my levels weren't as bad as my mom's. My mom's, she used to be like a major whiner. So she definitely loved wine. And so her liver was pretty fucked early. And so by the time we moved to Silt, she ended up finding out she had breast cancer. And she went to get a regular mammogram. And about a week later, she found a lump in her left breast. And when she went to the doctor, they were like, "It's a peach seed size. We need to go ahead and we're going to biopsy it, but we might as well think about a mastectomy, at least on that breast." And she says, "Let's get rid of both of them." So this is before Angelina Jolie. This is way before. This is 1994-ish when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was already in her lymph nodes. And it was pretty bad. They gave her 6 months to live at that diagnosis, even with the mastectomy, because it was already spreading. And so she
Right.
started.
It was already throughout her body,
Uh,
basically.
oh shit, something's happened. I
I
gotta come out.
think,
Hold on, I'll come back.
well,
Okay.
I'm sure she'll be back. I know the chapters of this next part of the story are very, very rough, but very relevant to the story as a whole. I'm
Sorry
gonna
about
say
that.
that. No, I was describing like this is a very hard. I personally know parts of this story, and
Mm-hmm.
this is the this is the
She
clincher.
she decided to do the right thing and to call my grandma, my mama, the one who threw herself in the lawn, and let her know that she had breast cancer and had 6 months to live. And if she wanted to see Rachel, she could come out to Colorado where we were living and come see her, but we weren't coming to her. And that there were going to be some heavy decisions, that she was most likely going to have me stay with my stepdad if she passed away because I was a little girl at that point. I was like 9 years old when she was diagnosed. So my grandmother has not seen me since I was 6. They decide to come out. My papa comes out with a tin full of pre-rolled joints for my mother and says, "Fucking shut up and smoke. We're gonna solve this. We're gonna solve this problem. We're not gonna see you go, and we're gonna see you not be in pain."
Yeah.
So he smuggled that weed from Louisiana with my grandmother not knowing, to make sure my mom knew that she had his full support. And my grandmother, when she showed up, sorry guys.
No, don't apologize.
Yeah.
This is a rough, raw story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's her story.
why we're
Whew.
the ones here for you
I
through
love
this.
you
You
guys. I
got it.
love you guys
I
so
know.
much.
We
I
know.
mean that core
We
love
know.
here.
We know.
So my grandmother pulls up. She had a white Cadillac. She was like that. You gotta look good.
Gangster.
Oh, that's right. No, it's Cadillacs.
It's Cadillac.
Cadillacs.
That bitch. Like
Bourbon
she would
and
look like
lax.
she
Like
would
that's a
say,
thing.
if she was
Fucking
standing
A,
right
man.
next to me right now, she'd say, "I'm not gonna go anywhere on a long trip without my Cadillac." Like, yeah, I gotta look good and feel good. So
Goddamn right.
yeah, and it had to be white or silver
That's
or
right. White
gold,
or beige
something.
or that
Or
Mary Kay.
she never went that crazy.
No.
She wa-
No.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying that
But
was
but spec, she was all about how it looked,
right. The
So
specs.
so she gets to Sill, Colorado. This is like a complete different fucking world for my grandma. She's not used to the mountains. She can't even believe how they got through the canyon. Like she's like clutching pearls. I will give you an imitation of her. "Oh, my sweet baby Rachel. Oh, my darling. Oh, my darling. Oh, I just love you to pieces." That's how she spoke all the time, her whole life. Like it was so southern, it would make you throw up in your mouth. So, and she comes and they drive down the street, and my papa doesn't recognize me, and my grandma doesn't recognize me. I'm on my bicycle in front of my fucking house, and they pass the house. They don't recognize me. And that's not something I give a fuck about. That's something my grandmother never got over. We're talking, it was like a repeat conversation till she was gone. On the phone, in person, all the time. Okay. So it was traumatizing to her that she didn't recognize me. And that probably does set a mood to that she never really got to know me after that either. She had an opinion of me as a totally different version she wanted. I was the little girl she never got. Like, I will trigger the fuck out of my family saying that because it's facts. They've called me and like drunkenly said things to me about that. So I didn't know that I had such a fucking place in that like awkwardness, but it's facts. So my papa comes, he gives my mother medicine and makes it a secret thing that he's like, "I can't come back again, but I'm going to teach you how to look for this. I'm going to teach you because she didn't have that experience. She only had it like occasionally in the French Quarter in her 20s. She didn't know what to do or what bud was what and everything. So he was like not setting her up with people, but telling her how to look for it and like how to spot a stoner, So facts. And we're in the middle of like straight nothingness. Like there was yodeling on my local radio, and that is it. Yodeling. I don't know why. It's pretty fucked up. We're not in Switzerland, but whatever. And
Oh yeah, the radio down there was
horrible.
different.
I remember like when we
Different.
finally got the top hits or whatever, it was like we were the cool kids in this fucking like, "Oh my god, turn up the radio. What is that?" No doubt. Alanis Morissette. This is amazing. This is when we got that kind of radio, was that kind of stuff. Like it's just so sad. Like I never heard Tupac on the radio. I heard it on a burned tape from people that had lived in California that had
I
gotten it from
heard
the
it
radio.
on Napster.
Oh,
Like I
that's
had to wait
amazing.
that long.
Warren G is the first one I ever heard. Was Regulators Mound Up on a tape, and I was done. I was done. I was like, I'm there. Yeah.
Regulators.
Round up. Yeah. And then it would like slowly, it was a cool black night. Like just like that. It was fucking crazy. Anyway, so my mother, we have this apartment, we have this house, or not apartment, I guess like it's a house we're renting. My stepdad cannot handle that her breast has been removed. And I'm sorry, trigger warning, trigger fucking warning, all you cancer survivors or going through it. But my stepdad couldn't also control his mouth. And he told her the night that she got home as she was recovering, and I mean agony of pain, which her breast got infected. So it was a very bad. She got a lawsuit. She won the lawsuit. But in the period of the early days of her recovery, when we're still like cleaning gauze, he told her he could never fuck her again because she was like Frankenstein's bride and he just never could touch her again. Point blank to her mouth, to her face. And my mother didn't hide that from me. I mean, at 9, she told me the truth of like, I already knew what sex was, but like, she was like, he thinks I'm hideous now. Like I'm Frankenstein. And I knew what Frankenstein was because we used to listen to Turner Classic Movies when I was sick on my treatment. Like I am way into psychological thrillers and really crazy bending mind stuff because I watched black and white films majority of my childhood. I wasn't
Same. My
allowed.
little TV, like I was
Right.
telling you. Like
I
with
wasn't
the
allowed to watch secular stuff, but somehow
no.
that was okay. So like Gone with the Wind and everything.
Yes.
So
Yes.
and One Flew Out the Cuckoo Nest and The
One
Birds
Flew Over the
and
Cuckoo's
Twilight
Nest
Zone.
and yeah.
And then we used to watch,
Alfred Hitchcock presents?
yes, 100%
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock. I like love the fuck out of that to this day. It puts me in a happy place.
That's
And
how I
even
go to sleep.
Shirley Temple, because like let me just show you guys. Like I was a pageant child. I look like Shirley Temple, most people thought. And so they would do that to me, like, oh my God, it's Shirley Temple. And she'd been way old and dead at that point, but
Oh yeah, I know how that is.
So I was like kind of the prissy girl is what they try to make it out. Even when I was like going into my
That
younger
is
years, I'm trying
a
to see if there's another one.
debutante dress for Nola
Yep.
Easter if I've ever seen one.
Oh yeah. So okay, so they stay in open communication. What does my grandma do to like smooge over the mommy? What would Rachel want while I'm still in town? I have a credit card. Let's go do this. That's what you do. Okay. I hate to say that, but
Buy
grandma's
the
in
pain.
Louisiana. Yeah. So we go and we get my mom's smart as fuck. She says, I need a computer for Rachel. It was a $1,200 computer, if not more.
Oh,
We got a
back then I
Packard
can
Bell.
assure.
We got a Packard Bell. My mom's like, no, I got the internet. We got this. Don't worry about it. We just need a computer. So it was 1994. She gets a computer. My mom, that changed everything. Remind you that I had a papa, my grandfather, who was like, you need to learn how to be resourceful and find cannabis and learn how to do it. And da 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 da. The internet was not a place in 1994 that you could find all the information in the world, but what you could find was a guy named Mark Emery. Shout out to Mark Emery. Mark Emery was the Prince of Pot, and he was sending seeds out to people all across the United States in the early 90s. He ended up going to jail because he had put too many genetics in our system to the point that, and that's the way I put it, but that's not what the cop said. The cop said he was distributing over borders and he had put more genetics into our country than anyone else. Are you familiar with Mark Emery C. Fowles?
Oh yeah, I know all about him.
Okay. So he became someone my mom really fucking respected. And I was not allowed, just like Bible study would be for someone, when my mom was on AOL and looking up, like this is before AOL. This is like Comp USA, straight up like dial up. You need like some kind of Netscape or something to even get online. It was like that. And she would say, pull up a chair and sit next to me. I'm going to read this to you. You need to retain this. It's called the cannabis industry. And it's going to be in your future, Rachel. This is going to be what you need to understand. That's how she would speak to me about it. It was very adamant that you need to learn. So that was by the time I was like 12, 13 that she got that into it. But from the ages of like 10 till the ages of, I'll say it like this, 9, 10, and 11 was me playing Oregon Trail and playing like things on the computer
Oh
and
my gosh,
Spider-Man shit
Oregon
and the
Trail.
ski guy.
Played that at school and then
Yeah.
continued it at home.
And solitary, like I'm a whiz at solitary.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
damn it, I
No,
gotta
my
listen to it again.
Yes,
my
and I loved Nintendo back then. I was a huge fucking like
Me
I
too.
liked all of the Ninja Turtles
Dr.
fucking games
Mario.
back then. They were fun as fuck. But I in Mario Brothers and stuff, I had already won the game like the first or second time I ever
That's how
did it.
I was
So,
too.
but I was so bored by it. So
Right.
then by the time I moved to Parachute, Colorado, which is where I live now. So this is what happened. We lived in Silk, Colorado. They got a divorce or a file for a divorce. Henry did and her. They had separated. They were trying to decide if they're going to stay married. She did love him, but he made her feel worthless. And the cancer, it just didn't help her. So she had to apply for disability because, of course, he was the sole provider. How the fuck was she going to move out of that situation? So he says, I'll stay with you until you get approved for disability. And then I'll get my own apartment and we'll see if we can do this like redate, retry to get to know each other, feel like work through this. And I was not privy to any of that shit. Like I didn't hear any of this details until way later in life. So she did not include me in their situation. She kept it copacetic as fucking a mother should. Okay. Didn't come and complain to me about him. None of that shit. Could just told me that that's why I want to divorce him. He said I look like a Frankenstein. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's fucking go into the wind. So my little brother's like 3 years old, barely able to speak at this point, maybe 2 or 3. I don't know. And so we um he moves to Rifle, Colorado. That's right next door to me right now. And he has like, I'm telling you, bachelor pad, you never want, the fucking new comforter, a day bed. He's got his TV for football games. Let me mind you, that's a big part. He was huge into the Saints, but when he moved out here, he was a football head big time, to the point that that's what fucking ruined their marriage too, is that he had to have his football all the time. That's all I can remember, the background of cheering from the fucking games on TV. And it was just stupid to
Oh,
me. I never got into
yeah.
it ever. And he
No.
never tried to make me like into it. Like I genuinely liked street hockey and stuff like that, ice hockey and shit, because I could play it good. And I lived in Colorado. You could like, it
Was
wasn't strange
this
if a girl got hurt or whatever, I don't know how to put it.
I have a question. Was this when the
Please.
Saints were the Aints, when everybody had the
Yes,
brown
they
bags?
were.
Okay.
Yes. Stop being. Yes. In Denver, Colorado, the Saints were the Aints, and they were no good. They
Yeah,
were
the
terrible,
fans would go
terrible.
to the games, but they would wear brown bags on their heads so they wouldn't see who you were. Because
It is
my
embarrassing.
grandfather was a
Oh yeah.
diehard Saints fan.
It's
My
still hard for me to this day. It's so funny you bring that up. It's still hard for me today to believe that like they weren't always good, because like
No, they
it
weren't.
just seems that way. People make it that way. But the Broncos were back when OJ Simpson was in the fucking team. I remember that very
Well, that had to be
clearly.
the 80s, 70s
Well,
even.
and okay, so OJ Simpson was a thing that he like thought, I don't know, maybe the guy did it, because like I was living in Denver when that shit happened. And then what's the other guy
Which
that's
one?
really big? He's a white guy for the
Drew Brees?
nope. This is like he's like owns car dealerships out here like crazy. He's
In
like a big ass
Colorado?
dude. Yes, big ass dude for the Broncos, and he
Oh,
retired. What's his face? He's
Oh,
a
he
white guy
retired.
though.
why can't I think of that dude's
Oh,
name? I should know this.
Manning?
I don't think so.
Peyton or Eli? Are you sure?
No, I don't think that's it. That's another one, but it's a big deal out here, okay? And that's the kind of period of time when my stepdad was into him. I can't fucking think of his name. I'm gonna call
Me
Colorado
neither.
people when we get done. But anyway, so and he did retire doing that, but he's like he might even be one of the investors in it right now, if I'm wrong. I don't know. Anyway, point blank, that was a thing. Like I only remember him working then for Tony's Pizzas. Like he was a truck driver. That's all he ever did, or worked for companies and was a truck driver. The same thing with Coors and everybody else. So, but he wasn't like semi truck driver. He was just delivery driver. So I mean, he could physically work really hard. I'll give him that. And he had a fucking alcohol problem too at the end. And so, like, belligerence is bliss. And my mom was dying of cancer, and like she needed help. She needed dishes done. And he wasn't that guy. He wanted a mommy forever. I don't know how else to put that. And
Oh, I
Right.
when,
can relate to that in real life.
yeah,
Like,
facts. And he
as
was
of
grumpy and
now.
mean and all of the
Oh,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So basically, I just, by the age of like 11 or 12, didn't even notice he lived with us. I hate to sound negative, but that's the truth. I just ignored him. Like, he wasn't in our house, but like, I never had to be around him anymore. Like, that was their thing. I never fucking thought of him as my dad. I didn't
What
have
year
that in
was
my
this, Rachel? I'm sorry.
95, probably. Because
You said
96 is
Denver
when,
Broncos? John Elway.
yeah, that's who it was. John Elway was. She's
Thank
like,
you. That
drum
would have
roll.
bothered the shit out of me all day.
Thank you. I'm the same fucking person on that. But it's a big deal out here to this day. Like, you could be beaten up, just mention him the wrong way. That's just a
That's like
sad fact.
Mike
But
Mike Ditka is the same
is he still
thing,
alive?
or
I don't know if he is still alive,
Mike
but
Ditka or
no,
Elway?
Elway.
I have no
Mm,
idea. I don't think
who
so.
cares? That's the fact. Sorry, man.
Yeah, no, I think
Anyway,
he is alive. He is alive. Yeah.
okay. So my perspective by this point in my life was about survival. I got Make-A-Wish Foundation when I was 9 years old, like 9 or 10 years old. What I asked for was, okay, let me go back because I have to explain the newspaper thing because this is something I have to find local too. So, Sill, Colorado had a population of like maybe 500 people at the time, and they had a cornfield in the middle of the town. I was friends with the mayor's kids. I used to play at their house. Like, it was, the town knew about us and my family, and that like we were in hiding and stuff. Not all the details, but kind of knew. And you got to understand when I describe to you that it's like fruit trees in your backyard and little streams and like goddamn deers that walk down your neighborhood. It's just like fucking perfect. It's like crisp mountain air. Doc Holliday is buried in this area. So like it is straight cowboy town, okay? Like there was a pizza place and like a little tiny, it looked like a coffee, like a drive-up coffee shop that was the mail place. Like it was small, okay? And when we were living there, somehow it got out that my mom had breast cancer and was fighting for her life and had probably 6 months to live, and that she just wanted her kids to have a good Christmas before she died. So she wrote to the newspaper and they fucking had the whole town put a big spread on the fucking. This is how it went down factually. They put a spread on the front page with my mom as a picture that she had sent of just us, me and my brother and I and her. And the next morning, I guess, when people opened their newspapers, drove over to her house because they put the address in the newspaper, and they left all the way down the sidewalk from the front door all the way down pre-made food for all of us to eat, and like baskets of soaps and stuff for my mom, and gift cards for groceries, and I mean everything. And the town took care of us for like a few months, but I was never treated differently in school. I was never treated like a special kid or anything, which I fucking appreciate. But that's the location where I had concussion and almost died at the building. Like I was in gym class and somebody hit me really fucking hard with a, I don't know, like I guess the elbow, but I was knocked out cold for like over 40 minutes. So they had to bring me to the hospital and everything. And so I had a full on concussion, like real short, solid concussion, and I wasn't allowed to sleep. I remember that. It's really fucking weird that I got to describe it like this, but when I had the concussion and had the experience of like dying, almost walking down the tunnel, I I woke up from that concussion and was craving a croissant with cream cheese and a pickle. It's the first thing I asked,
Wow.
and
Isn't
I've
that
always
weird, dude?
loved that shit.
You knock your head so hard you start craving weird shit.
It's
I've been there.
facts. You have? Okay. So, and I'm
Wake up
telling you
out of
guys, it's the best
it.
recipe
Why do I
ever.
want fucking donuts and Pepsi right
My
now?
mom was hysterically crying like a crazy mother would that I had even woken up. So, because I was blacked out from hospital, from school to everything. And I have always been real careful with my head since then, like straight up, because it was scary to me. Like all I remember is going out and then walking down a tunnel and stopping in the middle of the light and turning around, and then all of a sudden I'm awake and craving a toasted croissant. I had my eyes halfway open, is what my mom told me. Your eyes were halfway open. You said, I need a croissant with cream cheese and a pickle now. Just weird. like,
Did they said you said they
it's
did that thing for you at the pizza place? Did they like
it,
name it something like Rachel
no,
Live,
not at what do you mean pizza place?
where they were singing songs and stuff and they when they came together for you when you were in the paper,
Um,
the article?
no, the article was done because my mom wanted to make sure, because she
Right.
knew that she was getting a divorce, didn't think she was going to have enough money for Christmas, and it was before Thanksgiving even had happened. So when they came, they just dropped it off. Like, I know that sounds kind of weird, guys, but these people who did it in the town didn't want to be known. They just left it on the porch and drove away. Like food that was foiled up in like the metal containers, like mac and cheese and all kinds of random fucking food, all the way down the sidewalk. And like I said, baskets, and they didn't ring the doorbell. I can remember that my mom just was freaked out. Like it's all the way down the driveway, and I remember it looking that way. And I mean, the house isn't like you have to go very far. The town would have known because it's like the only red and green house in the whole fucking town. It's like, it's weird. Anyway, so told they told Make-A-Wish Foundation, because my mom answered questions to the newspaper article when they called her, like to take her statement of like doing a piece, and she didn't think it was going to do that. She just really wanted to help make sure we had a good Christmas. She was that kind of mom. And so Make-A-Wish Foundation found out that I was in need. That's the way they put it. I remember they like literally said it to my mom. I was on the speakerphone when they called, and because my mom was like, "Come here, Rachel, come here," and I'm standing there and saying, "We're going to give you and honor your hard work and determination for survival. We're going to honor you with whatever you would like. So what would you like?" And I was like that little girl who was like, "I want to meet Princess Diana." And they're like, "Well, we don't know if we can make that happen. So what would be the second one you'd want?" And I was like, "I want to go to Paris." And they're like, "Well, I don't know if we," because this is a small area. Yes, Make-A-Wish could have made that happen, but I was like, they're like, "What's your main want?" I was like, "I want art classes." So they hooked me the fuck up. I had pottery, I had beading, I had drawing, I had watercolors, I had sewing, I had everything you could imagine, like anything. For about 2 years, they gave me, those people actually extended it. It's because they saw that I had a natural gift. Like they gave me I think one was sewing lady. It was a local lady in town, just a grandma who knew how to use a sewing machine. My grandma, my mama, the one who came in town, bought me a sewing machine while I was in town with that computer as well, because that was her thing. She wanted me to get into sewing. And I used to make my own Barbie clothes and all that shit. And so this lady just kind of helped me learn more. And she had just been volunteering her time. And then another person was like had come to my house while I was getting treatment. Not that time. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. He would just come to our house and do sketch drawings and work with me. And then I go to a pottery place, and all except a few, like I didn't get the sewing part again, but all the other wasn't extended it to free lessons with me for a while. So they saw like me until I was about 11, from like 9, 10, almost to 11 probably. Um, and I just excelled in anything I did when it came to art. So I, by about that age, was like very much thinking that colleges should be focused. I don't even know why I was that way, but I was like, we need to save the planet, and colleges need to. I'm serious. I was like, I used to think about, couldn't we just take these landfills and make them into new towns? And then when they fucking did that, I was pissed. I was like, this shit's crazy. I should have been given that fucking props. I said that when I was 9. Um, I just used to be like the kind of kid that would think of inventions all day long, like just things you could make and things you could do. That's why my branding side of shit just comes naturally. I'm always thinking, but physical art wasn't my thing too much. But when I did the watercolor thing, with this one particular artist who taught me how to, do the traditional watercolor where you bleed the colors and all, there was a fire in my area in like 1995 or 96 in Glenwood Springs. The whole canyon had been blown, and it kept rolling and rolling and rolling. This was like, I almost think that it had been for like over 6 months this fire had gone on, and there was a lot of fire. There's like movies that have been made about it, about the Glenwood Springs fire. You probably know what I'm talking about, Brennan. But that the cloud of fire had pushed over and went the different direction, killed every single fire that was in it, killed everybody. And so
Yeah, that was
it was
really
pretty
bad.
bad. And I did a
It was like
painting.
a I know all about it because I thought it was
Yeah.
interesting. It was a dry lightning, they said, that started
But the
like a
wind is
storm.
what killed them. When it
Right.
changed directions, it literally just right over all of them. They didn't have a chance. And there's a on the monument where it happened, there is a big spot that's an honoring, and I donated through Make-A-Wish, through my own efforts of contacting Make-A-Wish to get a hold of these people. This is where my vision started very early. I visualized that painting I was doing that was of the fire. I did of the mountain like on fire, but a beautiful, like between it being green to nothingness. Like if you can imagine a painting. I never took a picture of it. I don't have one, but um we donated it and it is on the monument to this day, supposedly is what I've been told, like back then. So they put it in glass and put it up on the mountain. So I started at about 9, starting to do promotionals for the Garfield County. Um, I guess it would have been Department of Human Services because I was doing modeling for them and also speaking on behalf of children with illnesses in this canyon at that age. By the time I was 10, my mom was very good with the internet and we were already living in Parachute at this time. My mom got a settlement for $70,000 and decided to buy a trailer, a double wide. And I was the reason it happened. I'm not going to lie. I saw the shit across the street where we were living and I was like, let's go look. Let's see what they look like inside. And my mom's like, I don't know. I don't know. And then finally I was like, can we just look? Can we just look? And we go in and she's like, this is amazing, Rachel. We should do this. We should do this. So she was settling with my stepdad and fell back in love. And they decided, okay, let's do this. So he got the job with Swanson's or whatever the fuck, the Swan's food.
Yeah.
Again, he got another job with them again and started because he made the big bucks. He wasn't always home. That was great. So my mom was not unhappy with that. We got this double wide on this beautiful piece of property because in the town I live in, it's very complicated, but like they didn't start bringing houses into our area until like 1990, like 6 maybe. So I was like one of the first people. I am the OG of Parachute, like straight up. Like there
Nice.
are facts. Like I know every single family name around here because I went to school with them in elementary school, and now they're all working at the gas stations. And you get that, C-Fowls, you get that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Small
So
town shit. Everybody knows
holy shit.
everybody.
I like remember moving back and saying hello to somebody who used to tease me in school and she was like totally off herself and I didn't know it. And then somebody pointed out, that's the girl who used to call you a lesbian. I'm like, oh my God. And I wasn't. That's the thing. She turned out to be a lesbian, this chick. So it was fucking weird. It's probably
Isn't
being,
it funny how that
I
works?
know. I'm telling you. Yeah. Hold on 1 second,
Uh,
guys.
no, it's okay.
So, Parachute was beautiful in 1996. Parachute was fucking amazing. I have so many beautiful pictures I will share. The area that I lived in, my mom was a full-on stoner at this point. We're talking, she was a stoner listening to fucking Janis Joplin and screaming out the words. And like you
Yeah.
said, uh, um, oh, you said Crosby, Still and Nash. I don't know many people who know them. Like that's some shit right there. Or Simon and Garfunkel, or any of
Grew
that
up on
shit.
that shit.
Oh my God. I am like that is my soul. So, or Janis Joplin, all of it. I'm not Janis Joplin, Joni Mitchell or Carly Simon or what is it called?
Flopper.
Um, the Grand Funk Railroad, which is really funny, are Allman Brothers. Grand Funk Railroad, I don't recognize it's them most of the time, but I know their songs, all of it. But like I can remember Steppenwolf and Creedence Clearwater were like my mom's go-to, and
There you
all
go.
of all of that. So we would take drives because we were in the like rural area, and this is back in the day when you could put a Walkman into a tape deck to your car. So we would just have music and she'd smoke her joint out the window and we'd take little drives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it wasn't like that you could go back to your town and smoke in your own house. You had to like throw that joint out the window. My mom
That's
never
right.
liked glass because the one time that she did have glass, she threw it out the window and felt terrible for nature. Like that's how she said, like, she's like, I should have never, but she wanted a bubbler. So she made a little Sherlock out of a vase and the
Right.
tube. Like she was like a clever stoner, but she just never
Yeah.
grew. She was too afraid for all that. But the bathroom sink, underneath the bathroom sink was where the bong was and all the other shit. So when I was like 12 years old, I had a neighbor who I liked, a guy I liked, and I thought I was being cool. So I stole my mom's bong and I brought it over. That's fucked up on so many levels. My mom had cancer. I shouldn't have done that. Why was that fucking cool? I'm pretty sure the man was like, bring your mom's bong over. I'm pretty sure I did. So,
Yeah.
so I
Sounds
go
like some
over.
shit that would happen. Oh, your
Right.
mom has a bong? Get that shit.
I'm
Get
pretty
it.
sure that's how it happened. And I didn't even like, I don't remember being afraid. I remember being like, I'm going to fucking hook this up.
That's
So
right.
I go
Get it
over there and
done.
we go to his bathroom and he locks the door and I smoke my first time on a bong. And I'm fucking got lungs like a champ because even then, I don't know how I did it. But I got the immediate reaction that you do when you smoke weed the first time where I was so numb. I couldn't move. And
Mm.
he pushed me against the wall and tried to rape me. And I don't know how I got away, but I got away with the bong, which is fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like I
I
got
think
out of that
maybe the
bathroom.
bong saved you.
Yeah, the bong started and stopped a lot of shit, but
That's okay. You're here.
I know. So I then uh went back to the house and my mom had known the bong was gone. She was like, "Come to my room, shut the door." That I don't know if your parents are like that, listeners, but for real, like she was like, slam door, lock door. Okay, we're gonna talk. Let's go to the bathroom. Opens up the cabinet, is like, this bong wasn't like this before. That's what she says.
Ha, damn it.
Wow.
And I'm like,
Fuck.
I think there was probably shit in the bong still. Like, I think that I just fucking took it and didn't take her weed. I don't remember taking her weed, just the bong. So I don't know. Maybe they're still in the bowl. But she was a very in your face, like, we're not going to fucking beat around the bush. What did you do? Tell me now because it'll get worse if you don't. So, and I handle my shit the same way with my own son. So I was like,
Oh, I love that about y'all, though. That is amazing.
she says to me, what did you do? And I said, I almost just got raped. And she didn't give any fucking shits about the bong anymore in that moment. She was just like, what
Okay.
happened? Okay, what, where, who, how? All right. And she didn't confront the little boy. She just was like, never again. Fuck this little fuck. Not confronting parents, nothing. And I just made a conscious decision never to fuck with him again. Like, just a neighbor you never fucking pay attention to ever again. 2 houses down straight up, okay? And
So I have a question really
go
quick.
ahead.
Did your mom always conduct like a positive like
Yes.
energy? Like she didn't freak out?
We're
Like
not
she
allowed
was
to yell.
super
We
calm?
don't raise our voice
Same.
ever.
That's how I try to
But
be.
you piss
'Cause-
her off that your shoes are in front of
Yeah.
the door, she's gonna
Yep.
jack it at the window.
That's right.
Straight the
Fuck
or
yeah.
might you, but not violence. Just quite an inch away from your head.
Sometimes
So
you can kill them with words,
I
you
mean, when
know?
I mean she never had to say now because when she said get it done, I was running. Like we're
Yes.
talking panic on panic, like bad. So
Yeah. I'm sorry.
so
I just
I
had to ask that back.
that's
That,
religious indoctrinating why I was so like right away.
with
I'm
it.
telling you.
Quick, quick,
Quick,
quick,
quick,
quick.
quick, quick, quick. And appearances, I don't know. I've strive and have a lot of PTSD with cleaning my house a lot, CFALs, because that's my mom's fucked upness. Because she
Right.
cleaned nonstop. It was about appearances always.
That's how my
I have
mom was
I have
as well.
physical problems because of my spine. I had worn a brace. I never even talked about that yet. Also wore a plastic brace, not the one that's the metal up your neck, but the other one that's Velcro around your back. I have
Right.
pictures of
Yeah.
it. I had a 97, I mean, I'm sorry. When I was 5, I had a good friend named T-Bone who her father was a chiropractor and we were at Lafayette Park and I was bending over to pick up like a piece of bread or something to throw it to a duck and he saw my hump, I guess you'd say, or my curve in my spine,
Yeah.
and he owned his own practice. So he told my mother, let me have a look at her. Let me see if I can help you figure out if she does have scoliosis. We can do the x-rays. We can do it all in my own office. He was like, very good. And you got to understand, guys, back in the day, in the scoliosis days, they thought they could train your back out of it. So for a while, before I
Oh,
got
it
a
was
brace,
torture you. They've
oh, they
tortured.
tortured me. Yes,
Yes.
they
It
did.
was awful.
It's so crazy when I'm about to describe. I don't know how I don't think about this. This is weird. He'd have milk cartons with like weights in it, sand, and have me
Yeah,
hold them up and
right.
say, "We're going to practice straightening out your back."
You're a
Not
lab rat.
playing. I was a lab rat. This is before the rods. Surgery was even a thing at that point. They would do different kind of treatments. It wasn't like a whole Harrington rod, which a Harrington rod is like on both sides of your spine with hooks and screws. So I was 5 when they found it. They found a 57-degree curve in an S, which meant
Oh,
that
wow. It's
I was
inverted and
it was
question mark.
sideways, not back and forth. My butt wasn't sticking out. It was the other way. So like my right lung was being compressed by my spinal cord from age
Mhm.
5. So it got worse and worse and worse, and to the point that when we left Louisiana, we had to get an orthopedic doctor, and then we found out I had hep C. So I had orthopedic and a GI doctor since the age of 6, always. And so we and the orthopedic would always just be like so positive about, we're gonna fix it, don't worry about it, we're gonna fix it. When I wasn't having physical pain yet, I would have pain for wearing a brace. So he puts me in a brace when I am um shit, hold on, let me think. 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on a brace at 6. 6 years old, all the way until I was 13, for 23 hours a day. 23
Wow.
hours a day. I wasn't able to wear a
That's
dress
heavy.
normal. I never wore tank tops as like a little girl because it would show through and I'd feel like a freak, like a straight
Right.
up robotic freak. But you know what's good about a brace? Have a little motherfucker say they're gonna punch you. I let them.
Oh, yeah. Let that break your
I let
hand.
them punch. Yes, I did. I let them punch my stomach. Go ahead. I'm a fucking steel bitch.
That's right.
Yeah, I did that. I was like, I never looked at bullying. I actually don't even look at it to this day as the same. Like, I'm well aware now, talking to Forging, talking to you guys, like in your own situations, even Heather in her situation. I never looked at bullies the same. I was like, they have problems. Like, that's how I would look at it. Like,
I have a
I'll
question.
pray for
Do you
you.
do you feel like since you have had such crazy, insane, but,
Mhm.
for knowledge is power in the end,
Right.
right? Can you smell when somebody's not being honest about an illness or an ailment?
100%. 100%. But you know what?
Same.
Sometimes people
It's the
need
mental
to live in a
illness.
fantasy world to make themselves relevant to their circumstances or lack
Right.
thereof.
And it's a
And
mental illness.
I only don't, okay, the only thing that will trigger me is if someone says they have breast cancer and then they don't, I have a problem with them forever.
Well,
Because
yeah, I mean
I
that's
mean, that just is a thing on YouTube left and fucking right, man. I've seen them and I don't like them and I stay away from them because I don't talk about like the amount of treatments, but let's just be really blunt. My mom had 157 radiation treatments and went through chemo 4 times.
Oh, no.
The first time that she ever wore fake breasts, the little plastic ones you
Yeah, they're
glue
the,
onto your chest after, they kept falling off and she kept feeling uncomfortable. So it was Halloween and she decided to paste it on her head and answer the door with the boob on her head the whole time. And it was fucking
oh,
epic.
man.
That's how she
That's what's
was.
up.
So, and even the town, I think it's even like referred to in that article, like she was the mother with the boob on her head because she was trying to fight her
Oh,
cancer.
they're prosthetics, like,
Yeah, and
kinda.
um my mom was not treated very nice at most of her
That's
oncology. They most of the time would be like requiring her to take medications and force feeding the drugs. And when she had been in the hospital for the mastectomy, she had had a bunch of pre-rolled joints. I'm not sure if I'm saying in the right order. Hold on. It wasn't the mastectomy. She had gotten a colostomy bag later down the road because the drugs were really intense on her body and she had a liver disease and she had undiagnosed probably gastroparesis because I have all the same problems she had, but she never had a name for it. Like they told her she had IBS and from the medications is the way to put it. And
oh, yeah.
so at the age of like 11, I was there the day that it happened. She had a prolapse and it was just bad. So she was in the hospital and getting colostomy bag put in and no longer able to sit on the toilet to shit. If you get my point, guys, sorry to be gross. Um, She had me roll up a lot of joints because by the time I was like 12, I was actually smoking all the time. Because my mom, when I confronted her about the bong, was like, "You could smoke with me. This is stupid what you're doing, stealing my shit." So I sat down and smoked with her. We smoked forever, onward and upward, until until I was 19 or 18. And I quit smoking cannabis from like 15 till I was 21, maybe 20, no, 21. So there was like a few years, like a good 3 years that I was smoking with her all the time. I have a ton of pictures hidden because my mom, you got to remember, guys, you would bring a roll of film to the fucking Walgreens. They could call the cops and be like, "We see weed in that," you know? So we couldn't exactly put it all out there, but I would take pictures of my mom happy and high all the time. And I have lots and lots and lots of them. And she would have the joint, and like I just loved showing her happy moments, even though she was like bald and she had gotten Bell's palsy, so she couldn't smile anymore. And that was a very depressing time. And it's kind of scary to look at the pictures or share them, but I will because I think it's worth it to share the situation. But um, so between the ages of like 12 until 15, me and my mom were really fucking close. And then I ended up dating one of her dealers, and he was much older than me. Let me just be clear. She did condone behaviors that weren't okay, period. She would get mad though if I was doing PDA, and that's how she'd describe it, PDA in the living room, and be like, "You cannot kiss in front of me. This is inappropriate." Da 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 da. And I didn't understand it. I was like, "How is this inappropriate? What are you talking about? You condone this behavior. Like you think it's," and I would literally say it like that to her. So she had a hard thinker. And at that age, by the time I was 14 or 15, I really started craving alcohol out of nowhere. Like I had drank occasionally from the ages of 12 till 15 with friends, and like I have pictures. Let me see if I included it here. I don't think I did because I didn't block out their faces, but had I have pictures of us full on having keggers, like wine glass. I mean, fuzzy navels in our hand, and you can definitely tell we're teenagers. Okay. So, and I wasn't afraid to show it off. Like, I hate to put it like that. I was documenting my life way before it was okay. And, so my mother always looked at it as like she could control everybody and anything if the kids were at the house. And her cancer she knew she wasn't going to be there for me. She would prepare me from basically the ages of probably 14 till I was 18, that she asked me if I would ever want to take. That's what the plan was. I don't even know how I forgot this, Brennan. When I was 16 or 14, we
Which
agreed
part?
about emancipation. I was going to be
Oh, yeah,
emancipated
that's right.
it was in the will. I
Right.
would be emancipated and
If
then take on my brother because we didn't want my
correct.
brother to
That's what
be
I had to
without
do.
stability. And I was very mature by then. I had already had 2 jobs by the time I was 14, working along like
Same.
30-year-old people. And
Yes.
I loved working. Like when I was 12, I was in New Orleans visiting my grandma, and I went around every fucking business I could, and my grandma let me, which was fucked up, man. But she's like took me around every place asking if I could get a job, if I could get a job. And just I guess she wanted me to have that mentality, I guess. I don't know, that you go out there and just ask, because they were all like, "You're not old enough. You're not old enough." She wanted me to hear that. It was fucked up, man. They were like, "You're 12, you can't work here." I went to Baskin Robbins when I was 12, the one off of Veterans, if you know what I'm talking about,
Oh, I do. Oh my
all the
gosh.
way down by Williams
Oh
Boulevard.
my
And
gosh.
I
By
went
the
up to
oh
that
yes.
fucking clerk. It was the same owner when I was 12. And then when I was 15, living back in New Orleans again, went right back in there. And I was like, "I would like a job." And I already worked in Louisiana before, but at that point I was like, "I would like a job." And he was like, "I remember you." I was like,
That's
"Yeah."
that's
And
how
I
it was
became a
for me.
manager at 15, doing work that 18-year-olds were working aside me. I was a manager of like 4 or 5 employees, doing their schedule, everything at 15. It says a lot.
That's how I was too at Chuck E. Cheese.
I
When
dropped a big tub of ice cream on myself, slipped on my back, and fell on my back. Like I slipped and
oh.
it fell on me and on my back. And I got
Oh
an
no.
injury. And then I also dropped the waffle iron on my arm and had 3rd-degree burns. Like I still have a scar of like a waffle iron. It's fucked
Oh
up, man.
no.
And I
Oh,
went
dude,
back to work.
I was working at McDonald's and I have a deep fryer grate mark on my arm still
Mm-hmm.
from fucking cooking fries.
Yeah.
Facts.
Hey, those are
But
battle scars.
I loved it. I loved it so much that you could ask me, will you hang out with your friends or go work? I want to work. That's just who I was. And I did have friends though that they would be hanging out all fucking day. And then when like midnight would hit or 10, let's be realistic. 10 o'clock, I get off of work. I drive straight to the lakefront and hang out with all my people while they're shit-faced drunk, and I'm watching people do like skateboarding trips and bike tricks in the parking lot, and I'm playing techno music with all my fucking windows down. I had a learner's permit, but I had a special permit because I was a caregiver's permit in Louisiana, so I could drive before I had my license. I was like 14 and a
Right.
half
So
allowed.
like in case
Yeah.
your mom like
Yep.
had to
And
get somewhere, they
yep.
were like, "Yep, the kid can drive."
Yep. And I got called out of school so many times, it's not even funny, where she's just like, I need to go to the hospital. I need to go to the hospital. Like random shit was happening. So, and then it got so much so that intuitively I had a cell phone in high school, like at least by junior year, sophomore, junior year. And I would call her in the middle of class underneath the desk, like, are you okay, mom? I feel like you're not well. She's like, come home now, you know. So that was a real thing. That was a real, and I would just say, I need to go to the bathroom. And then I go to the office and say, my mom just called me. I got to go. So that was a thing before she died. And then when she died, my, okay, I'm sorry I'm bouncing around, but just to give context, when she passed away, I was a sophomore. Is that right? Junior, senior? What's a junior? Is that before senior?
Yeah, it goes freshman, sophomore,
Okay.
Yeah.
junior, senior.
Yes,
But you
junior.
were
God, I'm getting
also
old.
a year behind, remember? You were
Right.
also a year behind.
But I was a junior and I just started ditching school. Like I would go and have a panic attack at the door. Like I would back up. I would like start to walk in and then I would stop and just back up, back up, back up, back up, and go back to my car and fucking just not go. I did it so much that I also had a lot of health problems as you know. So I didn't have gym all through high school. I didn't have to go. I worked in the counselor's office. And so that's 14, like 14, 15, 16. Let me think. Probably up until I was like 17. Um No, hold on. It wasn't my senior year. Senior year, I had work permit, so I could go work during the day at school. But I basically took advantage of that. When my mom passed away, I was working in the counselor's office. I admit to everything. All right, here it comes. And I went on. I was such a little crook. So I went on to from my house computer. I found the logo of stationery for the fucking hospital. I printed out that. And then I went to my high school copy machine and I made excuse slips. And I submitted 17 days of truancy and graduated because of that. Facts.
That's
So
what
I made,
happened to me my senior year. I didn't go and I got truancy
I
and I
should have,
tested out. I
I
just was
test,
like,
I had,
deuces.
I had no desire to be in high school. Like I was no desire to be in middle school, no desire to be in elementary. I hate to say it like that. I excelled what
Yeah,
I liked, but I
yeah.
did not I felt like it was a prison sentence. Like I had a
I
good
didn't
10
have a way to
year.
get there. I didn't have a way to get there.
I'm going to get my dog. Sorry. Hold on, guys.
No, that's
You're
okay.
good.
Yeah, my senior year, I didn't have a way to get to school. And I had 52 days of truancy by the time I think it was December. And I had gone maybe 4 days to school, maybe 4 days. And my dad had gone to Louisiana
Mm-hmm.
and they said, you're going to have to repeat. And I said, what's it going to take for me to get out of high school? And they said, well, you haven't been but to 4 days of your senior class.
Mm,
So they said, you have to test out. And it's going to be at the time
right.
$75 for English, math, and one more. And I did it and it was pass or fail, pass, done. diploma, college, ahoy. I hated school.
So I have to kind of go back because you guys are like, what? She's all of a sudden in Louisiana. Yeah, let me
No, it's
go
okay.
back.
That's what happened with me too.
Yeah,
I was
oh my
flip
God. I
flopping.
told you
It's
my mom
okay.
was a gypsy.
That's
So
saying. Yep, I get it.
when she went to the hospital for the colostomy, they also, she was so fucking like just giving up on life. Like she would start to say to me, I think I want to give up, Rachel. I don't think I want to do this anymore. I can't fight this cancer anymore. It was starting to come back in ways. It came back in little spots like bone cancer and random stuff. And she just was in a lot of pain and sick of the drugs. And even like Colorado at the time wasn't easy to get cannabis. Like you'd have to meet a hippie who came through with a lot and she'd buy it all, you know? And I remember it
my
was all
people.
like mostly seeds. Yeah, mostly seeds. I mean, the
I
guy she
bet
got
you
it
I
from
could
was
drop
Uncle
some
Mike.
names right now, even from
That's
back
right.
then, and you'd be like,
Uncle
oh.
Mike. Uncle Mike was the guy who I remember something gold. Something gold fucking weed. What strand am I thinking of? Not Alaskan or something. I
No, what
don't
are you
even
talking?
know.
What are you trying
Afghani
to?
as well.
Acapulco?
I remember. Yeah, those strands. It's like gold something. What is it?
Acapulco Gold?
Yes, yes,
Jeez, jeez, that was
yes.
quick.
And
Or
she would get
24K.
hers
I
from
don't know.
Mexico and she'd get it from Northern California, Sacramento. And she had friends in Denver that would come back and forth. And she met them on AOL Dictionary and she would do what she had to. And she started disappearing from Parachute. Like she would just hold on one second.
No, that's okay. That's crazy you say that because that was like one of the hybrids that.
It was all seeds. I can remember that. And then Afghani, I remember smoking
Acapulco's
that
a
with her.
seedy bitch.
Yeah, it was. It was like mostly seeds, 75%. And it would
Eh,
roll. She would used to do hers, like, if a flatter surface like a tray is when you're breaking up weed, it usually will be like, if it's big nugs like we have today, it wasn't like that back then. Back then it was like
no, it's
pressed and you had to pull it apart and then,
Yep.
but it was good once you pulled it apart. You could smell the essence of it, but it wasn't the same. It was just more like, if you didn't have a lot of seeds and less stems, you were happy. That's about it.
Well,
So
and
I
that
got,
was
crazy.
the way they processed it back then.
But it
yeah,
That
was
was
better
kind of
to
the point, so it
smoke.
didn't
I don't know.
smell. So,
yep,
like,
It's
if,
not like one hit
when
and you're
you were
done.
rolling around with a bag in your car, the cops couldn't smell it. But when you broke it
facts.
open, like you said, then you could smell it.
You could tell it was like a grassy smell, but it wasn't like we have today with terpenes and lemon and all. It wasn't like that, as far as I remember.
I thought you
And
were talking about the 24K because that was like something
I don't
in
know.
New Amsterdam.
I don't,
But
I
no, no,
know
no,
that
no.
she
Amsterdam.
definitely got Mexican bunk, is the way she would put it.
Oh yeah.
If I would say it, that's how she'd say it. But she's like, oh,
Yeah.
I got some good bunk weed. That's how she'd put it. And,
That's what we called it too. That's a NOLA thing to me.
right. And, so cannabis was a big thing in her life, and she was proving that was keeping her alive. She was proving it. They kept telling her still, you have 6 months, you have 6 months. Like your cancer is still slowly progressing in different ways. At that time, technology wasn't the best. And so when she got bone cancer, she just felt pain. She didn't know from a scan. She had to tell them, go check this. This hurts. I don't know why my back hurts. I don't know why this hurts. And they would find it and be like, all right, here's more drugs. Here's more drugs. And she would go in there and not admit that she's using cannabis. And then they would like test her blood and be like, we don't see high levels of your pain meds. Why aren't you taking them? And she'd say, I'm throwing them up or da da da, which was facts. And so she started getting really close with, like I told you guys, my mom was really good with the internet. So what did she do? She looked into the hospitals in Sacramento and other places that were doing research on hepatitis and trying to find out how she could get me as a juvenile to get some treatment of a research clinic. She wanted to get me well. She didn't want me to die. So she was trying to get me into test studies and I wouldn't qualify because the kind of hepatitis I had was constantly mutating. There's a different kind of version. It's like be something, be something. It's very fucking weird. I don't know how to explain it, but so the doctors would say, we really wish we could be you could be a candidate, but your type of hepatitis um, isn't going to respond well to the treatments that are out there. So instead, would you like to talk to some possible prison mates with your mother? Like not asking me, but they were like offering it. we went to Sacramento and we went to a prison more than once, all paid expense to go talk to the prisoners. I was like a little girl standing there, 12 years old, talking to inmates, men and different women, not in one room, different fucking jails, if you understand, in Sacramento. And I don't think it was San Francisco, just Sacramento, but we got to go to San Francisco. So I don't know, maybe the hospital was in San Francisco and the prison was in Sacramento. I don't know. But that's where I fell in love with California early, and I was doing activism work. So I can say right now, I call myself an activist because I've been doing this since I was technically like 12, 11 or 12. I have a ton of pictures to prove my story and all whatever. But my mom helped me never be like a speaker, but a seeker. I definitely researched always after that. Like my college, when I decided to go to Art Institute and stuff, I already had such research skills that I would use the computer in the fucking school because I didn't have good internet where I was living at home, and my mom would have been on the computer. So like I would not take away her research time because she was always doing research on cancer till the end. Like she would just stay on the computer searching for answers. Like she did everything from like Reiki people to fucking prayer warriors to everything to try to survive the cancer. And it just progressed to then her liver in full lymph nodes. So, anyway, I'm sorry I'm skipping around, but she in Colorado was having trouble getting supply of cannabis. And she was very aware that California had just medicinalized, and you could move there and get a card. And she definitely would have qualified. So, we had a friend that we met who also had hepatitis, um, who was living in Newport Beach, California, and we would go and stay at her house for these major events whenever we wanted to like visit. Like we'd have a hotel, but we go spend time with I wish I for context reasons, let's just call her Elle. I don't want to say her name out loud, but Elle was like my mother. I gotta just say it. I called her Lizzie Mom because she was like my second mom. Like I don't know how to put it. Her name was Elizabeth, but we called her Lizzie. And Lizzie Mom was like the fucking woman in my life who was like, you can live anywhere you want one day. Like you don't have to be a Colorado forever. Like you love California, fucking move here one day. Like Titanic had just come out and she brought me to the movie theater and I saw it on the big screen in California and was like blown away because we didn't have shit like that in Colorado. It was just totally different experience. And Lizzie Mom, was trying to convince my mom to take on her health seriously and start growing hydroponically in trays. Do you remember that, CFALs? Where that was a thing, you could hide it all in a drawer. It would slide
Yeah,
in
yeah,
and
I do.
slide
Yep.
out, and you could grow full on stealth grow like that. So
Uh huh.
my mom had zero experience with building anything, but she had enough friends to possibly help her. And Lizzie Mom in Newport Beach, California was like, I think you should move here. Come out and spend New Year's with us. So my brother, I don't know if my brother went. He had to have. No, he didn't because he resented the fuck out of me about it later. So yeah, no, he never went to California with us. It was like probably a business trip and also a luxury trip. That's probably how we went. But I spent New Year's 1999. If you guys remember, I know I'm gonna fucking age myself here, but Spice Girls Around the World, shake
Yo,
it to
but
the
tell you
left
what I
and you
want,
wheel
what
it
you really,
around
really
now.
want.
That was
Yep.
what the ball dropped to song. I remember it very clearly, and I was drinking champagne with them. We were all hepatitis C people in that fucking room, but we were fucking trying to live. So 9/11, not 9/11, excuse me, 1999 was right before Y2K. And I remember bracing for impact in Newport Beach thinking, are we about to die? Like it was some crazy shit. They mentally fucked us. And so my mom, while we were there, this is the first time I ever dealt with a dead person. I have to describe this because it makes a lot of sense. But my mother was like a whim, a gypsy, like I said, just in the middle of whatever, she'd be like, all right, we're moving. And we were staying with Lizzie Mom, and her next door neighbor passed away. And Lizzie Mom used to go over to this old man's house all the time to bring him like coffee in the morning and random shit. She came over and found him dead. So we had to go call the coroner and all that in the middle of the night. Like I was not prepared for this shit. You understand? Like I did not. Dead people. I saw him. I walked in the room. He was dead in the bed. What the fuck? And his apartment was up for fucking availability. So my mom's like, I'm going to put in my fucking name. We're going to fucking sell our house in Colorado. We're doing this. That weed was good. Seafowls. Okay. She literally got a storage unit, took all the dead man's stuff, put it in a storage unit because like nobody was coming to help him. Nobody claimed him, you know? So, and Lizzie mom had that authority. She was like friends with the fucking leasing people. And even though my mom was on disability, she like had a house, but had credit just enough. Because at that time, I think she was filing a full divorce with my stepdad at that point. That's probably how my brother was at home still. He was still living at our house. Like he was watching my little brother. And he ended up he filed for the papers officially, I guess. And then he filed for bankruptcy and it destroyed my mom's credit. So she actually got that approval for that apartment, but when it came to actually moving, it wasn't possible. So we lost the deposit, we lost the storage unit with all the dead guys stuff. Like it was so fucking weird, like fucking weird. Okay. And Lizzie mom had given me a bunch of jewelry and like I stayed in touch with her for a little bit of time up until my mom died. And so basically we were in California. I mean, I'm sorry, we were in Colorado, and then when he filed for bankruptcy, it affected my mom to the point she had to foreclose on the house. So we lost everything. We had to walk away from the house being locked up behind us. And we decided to move to California. Fuck this, man. We're going to go fucking do it. So like in between not saying too much, like my mom tried to have help from the doctors at St. Mary's in Grand Junction, Colorado. We lived out there a small period of time. We were then on Section 8 housing. I do know that. That Section 8 housing wasn't horrible where we lived. But you did meet some fucking weird people. Like some straight weird people. Like there were several people without eyes in the neighborhood. Like they were disabled, so they were born without eyes. Like it was just strange for me. And no disrespect to disabled people in that way, but wow, you know, it was like a flashed into situation. Just good, genuine. And then that is also where I met like the concept of cholos. I never fucking experienced that in my life. But I was friends with all kinds of walks of people. But this is where I have pictures proving my point that I started hanging out at 15 with 25-year-olds who were doing meth in another room and then would come out and smoke a bowl. And I wouldn't say that they were absolutely inappropriate, except their dealers were, because that's where I've described to you, C-Vals, previously and other times in other interviews, that I was given angel dust, and the guys were doing meth in the back room, all the other guys that we were chill with, and they left me out there, and then the dealer showed up and he was like, hey, you want to smoke with me? I'll smoke with you. So I'm smoking, and then all of a sudden I'm paralyzed, and he's whispering in my ear, I'm gonna get mine now because I hooked you up. That's literally what he whispered. And then the guy, I'll call the guy by his name, Ron, one of the guys that was older and better and just a good guy. I don't know how else to put it. He wasn't a piece of shit. He goes over and beats the living fucking almost out of his life situation of this guy. Throws him literally out the door. Like, get the fuck out of here. Just throws him out the door. And bloody and everything. And then picks me up and walks me into my house, which it's like an apartment building that's like one door next door. So it was, my mom was friends with the neighbor who always had smoke. So she was very, very, very connected with whoever she could be who would help her out. Because they looked at my mom, and actually shout out to Kathy. I'm going to say it just like that. Kathy is local still, and I fucking love the hell out of her, and she'd appreciate that. But she was my mom's go-to friend for a long, long time. And my mom encouraged her to get out of that life. Now, you got to understand, I never knew what meth was until I was 24 years old, which means my mom sheltered me from it, even from the neighbors she was friends with. That's some crazy shit right there. Like, I didn't know anything. And I just remember they would call it crystal, but I didn't understand it. Like, and when I remember, they never offered it to me. Like, I never was manipulated to get into that life. Thank fucking God. But uh that guy picked me up, brought me into the bed, and the fucking ceiling was spinning, and he was like, stay here, don't get out of the bed, your mom will be home whenever. And shut the door, locked the door, and went back to his life. And I never fucking ever hung out with them again. And I didn't smoke cannabis again until I was 21 years old, like I said. And I was very afraid of cannabis, to the point that I have a lot of uh I guess, would it be essays, or what would it be if you're in college? Like excerpts, like you have to do a whole written.
A thesis.
I had to do a thesis on drugs and how they could affect people in one of my classes. And it's fucking disturbing what I wrote. I've read it many times, and it fucking makes me be like, you dumbass, because I was saying, you never know what they could put in the cannabis. You never know. Like, I was saying that it's not what it used to be and all this stuff. Like, of course it exists now like that, but back then I was so uneducated. So like I was saying, I basically was convinced at that point, after that experience, that cannabis was bad. I wasn't mad at my mom for smoking it. I couldn't be. There was nothing on that. Like, she used it as
Right.
medicine, and that's how we referred to it in the house. So, and I never thought of like, oh, I want to get high. I was just like, for some reason, I didn't coordinate the reality that it was actually helping my pain and my mental health and all of that. I didn't know. So when I had my spinal fusion, when I was 13, they it's a long story, but the pads that were put in my rod, or put in my brace, was put in incorrectly. So I had a 57-degree curve when I was 5, but by the time I was 13, I had a 97-degree curve. So I was like unable to lay down. I could not breathe. It would literally take the air out of me. I would I couldn't breathe. So I'd have to almost sit up to sleep, all of that, until I actually saw the orthopedic, and he was like, we need to do emergency surgery now. Like, you will not survive. It is going to basically completely compress your internal organs and kill you. So I had emergency surgery. They did a double Harrington rod in Louisiana while I was on vacation with my grandmother. I wasn't living in Louisiana like full term at that point. Do you understand? So my mother knows that I'm having, like, so this is the craziest part of all. The surgeon that did it was a doctor, a friend of the doctor who took care of me all through the years. And then when he found out the rods were, I mean, the brace was done incorrectly, he took zero interest in being my doctor anymore, and he dropped me as a patient. I have letters to prove this. Wrote my mother a letter and said she was a terrible parent that allowed me to get to this point, and took no responsibility for what he had done to my brace. When we had the brace in hand, went to a different doctor because I had to get a new doctor and get a new brace. And what we were coming to that doctor for was to just fix the brace and to make it available for me to have, to have female develop my breast. Okay. Because I was a little teenager and it was pressing and it hurt. And it was like, yeah, we can make it so it's of her age because her curve is so bad. Like, yeah, we can do that. But then when the doctors looked at how bad my spine was, they're like, there's no way. You need to hire a surgeon. So the Children's Hospital in Louisiana, my grandmother was doing all of this. My grandmother's only job was supposed to just get me fitted for a brace, but that didn't go over well because they dropped me as a patient because I was from out of town. He felt like my mother had like neglected me and not had fucking taken time to do things, and that's not what happened. We were 4 hours from a major facility. The brace was supposed to have lasted me for years. I shouldn't have had that happen. I just somehow was not able to breathe, and we never went to the emergency room. We never thought that it was something that I had done to myself. We just didn't know what was going on. So when I had went to Louisiana that summer, my grandmother just decided to fucking use my insurance card, which she had access to, and to go behind my mom's back, literally, this is the grandmother of my father, and arrange all of it. And even like, I can't even explain it to you. Um she had a 3-month temporary guardianship because that's how my mom would do it during the summer. She'd write me over to her as if there was any medical decisions needed to be made, could be done. And she didn't notify her. She only told her the day of the surgery. My mom got in a car and drove because she was a sick mom. She couldn't take a fucking flight. She didn't have that. She needed her weed. Fucking came to New
Right.
Orleans. 3 days later, literally dropped everything. I've been told this story many times. Dropped everything, was like, that's it. I'm going to New Orleans. Fuck this bitch. So she drives straight to New Orleans. I am coming out of surgery and my mom's there. My grandma's livid that my mom's there. And my mom's like, Mommy's here. Mommy's here. And I'm like blown away. Not up like surprised that she came, but just that wasn't like my mom to be that hardcore about it. Not like she wouldn't be there, but like she got in a car and fucking came. Holy shit. In the middle of taking cancer treatments, And we get there. She gets there. We're in Ronald McDonald House. My mom says to my grandmother, we don't need your help. We got this. Stay the fuck out of my kid's life. She was pissed, okay? Because she didn't get to make any decisions for me. She didn't get to add to that possibility. And when I signed a piece of paper along with my grandmother saying that we could not sue, which I didn't know that until later, that I had given, like, anything that fails on this, it's not their fault, and that da 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 da.
Right. Yeah.
Even
That
though it was a
whatever
minor,
that waiver
still
shit
signed it.
is called.
The
Yes.
acknowledgement for not giving malpractice or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was 13 and was just confused. And the only thing I wanted to know was, could it be reversed? That's what I kept asking. And the doctors kept waving that in my face. Like, hey, you might want to have kids one day and get it reversed. Or, hey, it might fail and you might want to get it reversed. They didn't explain fail. I didn't know that. I didn't know that word. So the surgery is put in my back when I am 13 years old. You're going to still fucking grow. And it is rods all the way to the top of my neck to the bottom of my tailbone on both sides. So I have zero movement in my back whatsoever. I'm a fucking stick board. And it's 3 months of recovery. So my mom is told by the hospital, they could have started a CPS case on my mom easily. So she did the right thing, coming to town and then getting us a house in Slidell. We were in Slidell where there were like
hold up.
crawfish.
Slidell.
Yeah.
Sorry. Had
Slidell.
to make a comment.
Please do. But okay, describe Slidell, because like I
Oh,
remember it being crawfish holes everywhere.
what? You remember it being what?
Like every single lawn in the farthest your eyes could go.
Uh-huh.
Every 5 feet everywhere in Slidell has crawfish holes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Slidell's like the legit probably the place where Waterboy was filmed.
Yeah. 100%.
It's
100
very
fucking percent.
yeah, that's the best way to describe it. It's kind of a, there's everybody kind of sticks to their self. If
The
anybody
water smells like eggs.
yeah, if anybody got out of
like
Grand Isle,
yeah,
they go up to Slidell. Like that's right before you get into Mississippi. If you're going more
it's
on the
literally
north,
like 15 minutes from the border. It's
right?
nothing. And
Yeah,
so you're
but that's the
basically
best
in
way.
Mississippi. And I didn't go. I'm trying to remember. It was summertime when I had it. So I did not go to school out there. I was 3 months recovering. I can remember making fucking grits with the water that was local. And my mom was like, never again are we going to eat this egg grits. Because that's what it tasted like. It was sulfur. Pure sulfur. Oh, it was
Gross.
horrible.
I love grits, so yeah.
But not with
A lot of
fucking
water.
egg
No.
juice.
I don't use. I still to this day don't use
I can
tap
smell
water.
it like nothing. And
Yep.
so we stay there for 3 months. My mom was basically my brother. That's the fucking facts I never thought about. My brother wasn't with us in that period of time. He was still in Colorado. So it's summertime, 3 months. We're staying there recovering. And she only did that to make me roadworthy. That's what she said. That's how she put it. We're going to get you well enough to get on the road, because the incisions were bad. Like, there was a lot of possibilities. I determined in that period of time that I'm very allergic to Vicodin. I would throw up blood. Like, I couldn't do it. So we went to the emergency room directly after my rods were put in, and they told me, you're just going to take Tylenol for the rest of the time. Well, I had a hepatitis
Oh
C. I
no.
couldn't
Yeah.
take Tylenol, but that's what they gave me, was like
Acetaminophen.
Tylenol prescription. And my mom, this is a fact, judge her, fine. She didn't want to hear that. When we left the emergency room, she already had a joint in the car and was like, light this up.
That's
And
what's up.
Fuck yeah.
And we were I hadn't smoked in a long time. Like I explained, I had been with my grandmother that summer. I'm still 13 fucking years old. I'm really young. So it hits you hard when you haven't smoked. And I'm in the car and I can feel every single bit of my spine on a whole nother fucking level, high off my ass. And every bump in the city, you know about this, Brennan.
Yes, I
The
do.
potholes are
Unreal.
intense. So it's like
Unreal.
bump, 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 bump,
It
bump,
doesn't
bump, bump,
stop.
bump the whole
It
time.
doesn't stop. You
And
have to have off-road tires on a Cadillac. It's
I
pretty
had
bad.
5 pillows. I had them underneath the sides of me, in the back of me, on my neck. I had 5 pillows and seat belted. And I was like, Mom, you have got to get me somewhere and lay me down, because I was not okay. So smoking was how I handled some pain, but I could not do it publicly. I couldn't chill with my mom in a car and be like that
In
cool little
motion.
daughter. No, I was a paranoid smoker as a young
Me
person,
too.
which is weird.
Me
I was
too.
like, I need the windows drawn. I don't want anybody seeing me. It was just weird. So I had only smoked for like a year at that point, and then started using it medicinally at 13. But I didn't have to use it forever. Like, once, I want to say like 6 months later, I had a lot of nerve damage after that caused a lot of problems. But I think that's why cannabis like was helpful, because of the nerve damage. But I can only explain it as like, I was well aware that it was probably bad that my mom was giving me cannabis, but I was not ever going to tell on her. And I didn't think that it was necessarily bad for me. I felt like she was being a good mom, not pushing me to use pharmaceuticals, like even
I
back
was
then.
gonna
That's
say,
right.
yeah,
I
think
agree.
it came from
Yeah.
the right place. Like, let's not get my 13-year-old daughter hooked on pills. Fucking try this and see if it helps.
She
Yeah,
just
that-
didn't, she was just so angry that the doctor didn't listen to me. Because you got to understand, when you're like 4 days post-op from a spinal fusion at 13, and you're projectile vomiting every single time they're giving you the Vicodin, and your mother's like, it's okay. I'm like, is it bleeding? Is it breaking open? It was. Like, I was jerking and fucking up my incisions from like the throwing up of the pills. So, and I still respond to Vicodin to this day like that. So I
I
never
wish I would have had
could
that
do it.
allergy.
Man, it's a great allergy. I'll tell you what.
Nikes.
Fuck. I mean, but then there's people that would like snort that shit and keep going. So I never
Yep.
was that.
That's why I wish
Ever.
I had that allergy.
Whew. So, and just to give context to you guys, I have about 20 minutes until I have to pick
That's
up my
right.
child. But I think that
This is a
like,
good
what do you
place.
think it's a good stopping point?
I
We can.
do. I really do,
Okay.
because this is going to get
Yeah.
into the
Yeah,
realistic
Ooh.
quite a bit,
adulthood.
and we're
Everybody's gonna
Yeah.
walk away like shell shocked. You realize that they're gonna be like, "Holy fuck!"
I told you that's why I asked you in the first place.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's when I was like, Mom thought it was okay to smoke weed, and Mom was the bombest mom around, and I just basically felt like, you know what? It's me and you, Mom. It's me and you. Like, that's, and we're just gonna, you're proving that this cannabis is keeping you alive, and you're looking out for me. And like, we went back to Colorado, just to be real quick. Went back to Colorado, and those same 5 pillows I had from the hospital became my mattress for about 3 months. So my mom had nothing. And I will talk about the neighbor who next door stole all of our stuff from the house we foreclosed on. That's where I'll start next
That is
time.
a great point to
And
start.
my
Yeah.
Barbies and my childhood
Yes,
books.
yes, yes.
And pretend it like my mom,
Perfect.
everything in her life was hers and it was set up. I'll explain it in the next one.
That's a
Yeah, it's
visual for the
crazy.
next time for sure.
Yep. So I'll premiere this and let you guys know when it goes up. But yeah, I think the second part, we'll have to start at age 13 and go on from just the surgery and getting back into Colorado. That's the best way to do it. Because I've moved to Colorado 3 times. I've moved to California 3 times and Louisiana 3 times. So
yeah, this is a
I've
story
lived a
that
lot.
you can't force this, and this is a good
No.
place to start. And maybe it's a 3-parter. You
We'll
never
see.
know.
Yes. Thank you, C. Fowles, for being here. I appreciate you. And Brennan, thank you for indulging my tears. You guys,
Always.
fucking bullshit. But anyway, I'm going to end it and I will be in touch with all of you. And until the next Mary Can I Be Blunt, thank you guys for being here.
No problem.
Right.
Good day, everybody.